Chapter 1454. Within the Green Emperor's long and narrow eyes, a ray of light surged endlessly. Is this the meaning of being born as a human? Is this the reason why Master created the Bawang sect? If I don't exterminate the 9 stars, I will not live in disgrace. The Green Emperor muttered to himself. This time, he no longer rejected the heavy burden on his body. He circulated the green demonic chi around his body to the extreme. The golden dragon mark, accompanied by the faint roar of a dragon, spread out majestically in the void as if it had passed through the ancient times. Letting him help the 3 demonic beasts mine the middle 3 islands and face the 9-star sect master alone was because this was Su Yi's hope for him. Boom! Then let's fight to the death. The green light in the Green Emperor's demonic eyes shone brightly. His voice was deafening. Every word rushed into Chun Feng's ears. I have to use my true strength, otherwise there will be trouble. Chun Feng was startled. He was constantly calculating in his heart. The Ming she was facing was very powerful. He had to suppress it first. The tranquil figure of Chun Feng slightly swayed in the strong wind. Finally, a trace of emotion appeared on his emotionless face. Immediately after, Chun Feng saw the expert's long sword suddenly draw a circle in the air. Immediately after, the space in front of him stagnated. In an instant, a dazzling light burst out from the periphery of the demonic beast tide. An incomparably sharp and terrifying wind hit the metal-like demonic beast's skin. Clang, clang, clang. An incomparably sharp aura burst out. Evil beast, die! The huge sword in Chun Feng's hand surged with dazzling starlight. A few more demonic beasts were turned into a bloody mist and scattered in the air. As soon as his voice fell, the Green Emperor also took the initiative to attack. He didn't give Chun Feng any chance to launch a sneak attack. His huge figure wreaked havoc in the sky as he rushed towards Chun Feng. The final attack. Boom! Almost at the same time, powerful figures swept towards Chun Feng from the sky like a storm. Kill! All the beasts roared in unison. Their resplendent demonic chi weaved a net of light that covered the sky. It was incomparably radiant, and it directly illuminated the entire sky that was covered in dark clouds, making it seem as if doomsday had arrived. On the other hand, Chun Feng's body moved slightly and 11 afterimages appeared in front of him. Every afterimage seemed to be real, sparkling, and translucent, causing people's souls to tremble. The 12 silhouettes raised their swords at the same time. Suddenly, the 12 shocking sword rays were like 10,000 swords returning to their master, forming an extremely bright sword formation in the air. Disappear, you ant! Chun Feng angrily shouted. The terrifying energy of heaven and earth swept out, like countless stars crashing into each other. The surging sword chi pushed the spatial ripples apart, forming a vacuum. Vacuum defense, absolute domain defense, and gaseous flesh. Looking at the fearless beast horde, an indescribable look of disdain appeared in Chun Feng's eyes. Amidst the dense clouds, the light on both sides were like meteors falling from the sky. It was extremely violent, and in an instant, it was as if the end of the world had arrived. You overestimate yourself. Ants, perish! Chun Feng raised his hand and slashed down with his sword. A strong wind swept across the sky, causing the weather to change. 2 huge forces that could move mountains and overturn seas were about to collide in the air. Far away, at the entrance of the Calamity Sea, boundless elemental energy spread to the front of Situ Muyang as he anxiously watched the situation of the battle in the middle 3 islands. The overflowing radiance was like a light screen, causing Situ Muyang, whose cultivation was lacking, to be firmly rooted to the ground. He was unable to move, and his heart was filled with fear. This scene was simply too terrifying. The battle between the big ancient demon and the peerless expert was something that he couldn't interfere with. This was a scene that he couldn't witness at the Xinjiang Gate. The big ancient demon's beast horde was enough to devour the sun and moon, and the peerless expert cultivation was enough to move mountains and fill seas. I want to become stronger. This shocking scene was surging in Situ Muyang's heart. His starry eyes were filled with radiance, and there was a flicker of light. Situ Muyang was dumbfounded by the strange scene in front of him. Boundless energy once again swept across the entire Calamity Sea below the middle three islands. What powerful energy! Is it a beast horde? There are actually such high-level savage beasts here. There are also people from the Nine Stars Valley. Who are they? What a shocking battle. Two deep voices entered Situ Muyang's ears. His mind raced, and Situ Muyang couldn't turn his body. He turned around and saw that it was Elder Xian Shuang and Elder Meng's son. Shi Su, who had gone out previously, was nowhere to be seen. He was slightly surprised that the two of them had come in. Situ Muyang didn't see Sikong Shang among the three elders from before. Kid, let me ask you, who is fighting in front? Meng Sun asked impatiently. When Shi Su came out to ask for help, only Meng Sun and Xian Shuang had recovered. At this moment, their bodies were still stained with blood, and their elemental energy hadn't fully recovered. Meng Sun looked at the huge changes in front of him seriously. Boundless roars of beasts reverberated in the sky. Situ Muyang simply repeated the plan that Iron Fist had told him about Su Yi's plan to Meng Sun. Xian Shuang frowned and said softly, "That kid went to find a 9 stars old ancestor himself. He is really bold." Meng Sun heard it, and his beard was blown up. He pointed at the two boundless lights in the sky. He pointed his finger and unlocked the energy seal on Situ Muyang's body. What? Say it again. Who is the one in front? Situ Muyang looked at the furious Meng Sun and felt a little embarrassed. Why is this old man so noisy? Does he know that the middle three islands are the foundation of the Calamity Sea and want to take over? He suddenly stuttered and clenched his fists. He said softly, "The one in front should be the 9 Stars Valley, the previous Sectmaster, Chunfeng. He is fighting with the three great beasts here." Meng Sun seemed to have heard a name that he had been looking for a long time. His eyes were filled with crazed desire. Green and blue flames rose under his feet, and he was about to fly over. Xian Shuang reacted quickly. She noticed that something was wrong with Meng Sun. She grabbed him and said while looking at him strangely, "Where are you going? Sikong Shang hasn't woken up yet, and your injuries haven't healed. He is fighting with the Beast Tide now. Don't tell me that you still can't let go of the ranking tournament." Meng Sun laughed. His turbid eyes were filled with murderous intent. His fighting spirit was surging like never before. "Old Xian, you don't understand. The ancestors of the Qingyan sect have left a will. No one in the 9 Stars Valley is a good person. I will help whoever goes against that old bastard Chinfeng. Even if I have to give up my foundation, I will fight with him. Don't worry about it." Just as he finished speaking, Meng Sun's body suddenly rose up, and azure blue yuan qi directly enveloped Meng Sun. His upper body's hair and beard stood up like a fire god burning the sky, while his lower body's water vapor rose like a water dragon being born. Boom! The absolute territory of the ice superior flame was opened. Meng Sun turned into a ball of light and flew towards the middle three islands where the dark clouds were. He laughed as he flew. Chapter 1455. Old Man Chinfeng, look who's here. Your 9 Stars Valley has done a lot of evil. I'm here to take your life. Meng Sun's roar was like a turbid wave, and a terrifying strength spread out. Alas, I'm afraid the enmity between the Green Flames sect and the 9 Stars Valley will never be resolved. After so many years of dispute, it finally turned into resentment. Xian Shuang shook her head, and her strength burst out. She was about to leave. Situ Muyang saw it clearly and said anxiously, "Elder Xian Shuang, are you going to join the battle?" Qila, Elder Xian Shuang's figure separated, and a halberd-like weapon was left in her hand. It was dazzling, and suddenly a terrifying aura surged out from the halberd. "Sita boy, there's not much time left. You stay here. Susu has been taken away by Wei Hong, and they are going to the entrance of the vast star plane. I'm going to help Sect Master Su. He's more troublesome." Suddenly, she waved the halberd, and Xian Shuang, who was standing in the sky, broke through the sky. She burst out with all her strength and flew toward the direction of the hidden Yuan Island at lightning speed. At this time, Sita eyes were blood red. Looking at the two elders participating in the battle, he suddenly felt a throbbing in his heart. Is this the world of the strong? Sita took a deep breath, and his eyes became clear again. Such a battle situation was not something he could control. Since he was able to enter the secret land, it was better to improve his cultivation and strive to reach the realm of the strong. He immediately sat down cross-legged and used all his strength to adjust his breath. Bang! With a blow that could destroy heaven and earth, the starry sword radiance and the demon aura that was like volcanic lava collided with each other in the void. The boundless energy spread in the sky, and with a blazing aura, the entire sky of the three middle islands was dyed into an extremely gorgeous picture of destruction. The beast tide was directly dispersed, and countless savage beasts couldn't resist the impact and fell straight down. Iron Fist, Shuezhong roared. Not far away, the huge figure of Iron Fist seemed to have lost consciousness and fell straight down. Gray Hair. The insufferably arrogant Gray Hair also closed his eyes and fell down like a cannonball, disappearing without a trace. Zhuoqing. Heart-wrenching cries rang out continuously as more and more barbaric beasts fell onto the island. Looking at the four beasts, the Green Emperor's body was still shining with green light, but there were many wounds of different depths all over his body. Blood kept oozing out, and his bloody eyes were full of seriousness. Beside him, Shuezhong and the others also had different degrees of injuries. The fourth level of the Origin Ancestor stage is indeed powerful. In comparison, Shuezhong frowned. In terms of strength, the combined combat power of their side was not comparable to the Origin Ancestor realm. There was indeed a huge gap between the Origin Ancestor realm and the Origin Emperor realm. The Green Emperor probed with his mind, and the green demonic light spread out once again. He could feel that although Chun Feng had concealed his aura very well, he had actually used up too much of his energy. His highest cultivation level was only at the 9th level of the Demon Emperor realm. His combat strength was only comparable to that of an Origin Ancestor. It was already not easy for him to work together with all the other savage beasts to reach this stage. The Green Emperor bared his fangs and smiled gently in the direction of hidden Yuan Island. His eyes were full of reverence. Master, the Green Emperor did not disappoint you. The entire three middle islands were filled with screams. The vast area between the three islands was already filled with craters formed by the savage beasts. The craters were at least a few feet deep, and it was extremely shocking. Far away in the sky, Chun Feng's clothes were already tattered by the powerful collisions. His cold gaze shot towards Shuezhong and the others, who were weeping blood and crying. He looked at the small number of savage beasts that were still holding on at low altitude. Chun Feng's bloody right eye was tightly shut, and his left eye was slightly narrowed as he looked at the Green Emperor and the others. His gaze was cold, as if he had come from the depths of hell, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Oomph! How can a fluorescent light compete with the brilliance of the sun and the moon? Today, I will make sure that you will never be able to rise again. Destroy. Ants. The Green Emperor's gaze was cold. Shuezhong, Zhuoro, and the other savage beasts once again restrained their emotions and began to become even more ferocious. It was as if they were not afraid of death at all, and they were preparing for the final attack. Boom! Behind him, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard, and a short figure suddenly appeared. The azure-blue flames were blazing and dazzling, and he was looking at Chun Feng like a god of death. Chun Feng glanced back, and the figure in the azure-blue flames suddenly turned pale with fright, and he frowned. "Why are you here?" As the flames rose, Meng Sun's white beard fluttered in the wind as he watched the barbarian beasts fall one after another. He waved his long sleeves, and a blue light quickly lit up the surroundings. His absolute domain was activated, and a majestic wave of spiritual power surged out. Meng Sun clenched his fist so tightly that creaking sounds could be heard. He coldly looked at the previous sect master of the Nine-Star sect, Chun Feng. Do you still remember me? Valley Master Chun Feng. Immediately, there was a low explosion sound in the whole space. A whirlpool of strong wind swept out directly. The cyan flame that was like a rainbow turned into a cyan giant saber that was half flame and half wave. Ice Fireblade. Chun Feng recognized that this was Meng Sun's specialty, and his face became more and more serious. On one side, there was a horde of ferocious beasts, and on the other side, there was an old rival who had a grudge against him. Meng Sun, do you have to go against me at this time? Meng Sun's eyes twitched. Chun Feng's words seemed to have brought up the past, and his anger surged. The azure blue flames kept jumping, and he took a step forward. If it wasn't for your plan, would I have missed the ranking tournament? It only happens once every 100 years, and you disappeared after coming out. So, you escaped here to cultivate. After hearing this, Chun Feng frowned. He immediately said, how many people from the Chaos region can participate? Which one of them isn't a monstrous talent? Although I used a plan, I didn't do it to harm you. You aren't qualified, and you will only embarrass the Chaos region. Stop being so long-winded. Our ancestors left an order for us to not interact with the Nine Stars Valley. I disregarded the consequences and became friends with you. But in the end, you treat me like this. Very well. Meng Sun's face became more and more ugly. The flames in his hands were surging, and a trace of coldness appeared in his heart. Let's fight to the death today. After speaking, Meng Sun said to the Green Emperor, you're with Su, right? I wronged him previously. He is indeed not bad. Without him, I would have been killed by that little bastard Nangong. I don't want the resources here. Let's work together to deal with Old Man Chun. What do you think? Meng Sun's cultivation was at the second level of Origin Ancestor Realm, and Chun Feng had been attacked by the horde of beasts, so his combat power had decreased greatly. Shuizhong, Zhuorou, and the rest looked at each other before looking at the Green Emperor in unison, asking if Meng Sun was reliable. According to the conversation just now, Meng Sun and Chun Feng had quite a bit of grudge between them. If Meng Sun was here to help, it would be great. Moreover, their side was severely injured. The number of casualties in the Beast Tide was too high. Including themselves, they had suffered quite a bit of damage. Both sides could join hands and do the final battle to kill Chun Feng here. Chapter 1456. After careful consideration, the Green Emperor's narrow eyes revealed a trace of determination. He looked in the direction of Hidden Yuan Island and spoke to Shuizhong in a low voice. We could try. This guy is too strong. Meng Sun is right. If we don't work together to kill him, there's no chance of survival. Shuizhong and Zhuorou's eyes lit up. The demonic aura in front of them rose again. Meng Sun laughed when he heard that. The blue flame was like a destructive firework that bloomed in the sky. Ha ha! Old Man Chun, you're really not popular. Meng Sun raised his eyebrows and looked at Chun Feng with sarcasm. Meng Sun, do you have to go against me with a bunch of demonic brats? Chun Feng, who was angered by a few words, had a grave expression on his face. His expression was tense. The beast wave earlier had already greatly reduced his offensive power. Coupled with Meng Sun, who was at second-level Origin Ancestor Realm, it would be difficult for him to escape, let alone suppress the Beast Tide. After he finished speaking, Chun Feng waved his sleeve, and a starlight palm print immediately gathered in his palm. Suddenly, a silver-white blurry light shot out like lightning. It contained a boundless and terrifying berserk starlight energy. It was as if the vast ancient times had collapsed. The stars in the sky were moving, and the stars were moving. Meng Sun, then let me see how strong you are. Are you worthy of fighting with me? Not far away, Chun Feng crazily roared. At this moment, he could smell a trace of danger, so he could only fight with all his strength. The earth-shattering spiritual energy surged out and gathered the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. With a push and a contraction, another palm print shot out. Do you think I'm afraid of you? What can a fourth-level Origin Ancestor Realm do to me? Go! Meng Sun's gaze flickered. The attack power of the two origin ancestor realm powerhouses instantly collided, causing heaven and earth to tremble and the void to rumble. The terrifying energy rippled and tore the surrounding space apart. Small cracks in the space instantly closed up again. Fight! Fight! The terrifying and monstrous energy separated upon contact. The two figures retreated at the same time. However, Meng Sun seemed to be having a harder time. He retreated several dozen meters in the air before stabilizing himself. When the Green Emperor saw this, a green glow flickered in his eyes. Indeed, in terms of attack power, a level 4 Yuan ancestor who has expended most of his energy is comparable to a level 2 Yuan ancestor. The Green Emperor and Shui Zhong didn't have time to think. The moment Meng Sun retreated, they shouted and rushed forward, standing behind Meng Sun. Meng Sun's gaze flickered a little. He stood in the air and laughed loudly. Suddenly, an extremely dense blue flame filled the sky in front of him. Looking at the faint figure behind the flame, Meng Sun condensed a complicated handprint from afar. Immediately, his Yuan Qi surged and violent energy surged like waves. What a powerful Yuan Qi storm! The Green Emperor narrowed his eyes and watched as the space before him began to distort. The Green Emperor and the others immediately circulated their Yao Qi to the maximum. As the Yao Qi and the blue flame overlapped, the space around Chunfeng started to seal up. It kept shrinking and bombarding Chunfeng's absolute territory. Instantly, the surrounding space began to crack. The ominous energy caused Chunfeng's face to turn red. Break! Chunfeng's figure also moved slightly, and a palm light suddenly exploded. The sound of the explosion was like thunder in a clear sky, and a violent wind directly scattered a small portion of the beast's tide. Brute beasts continuously fell from the sky, and the space of the three islands was instantly torn apart, one after another deep space hole after another. Chunfeng, I want you dead. Seeing their brothers and sisters being beaten to the ground by Chunfeng once again, their faces turned pale. Their fierce gazes were filled with an overbearing, killing intent. Just the two of you? I'm afraid a level 2 Yuan ancestor and some demonic beasts won't be enough. As soon as the words left his mouth, a terrifying formless energy was mixed in between the two parties. It turned into two balls of light that covered the sky and collided with each other in the air. Bang! Instantly, the space was distorted, following which flames and starlight enveloped the space. Suddenly, a violent explosion was heard and a monstrous sound wave reverberated through the clouds. From the point of contact of the two forces, the sky fell. Within the dark clouds, everything turned into nothingness and became boundless darkness. In Hidden Origin Hall, Su Yi was followed by the Yin-Yang twins and the rest as they walked towards the main hall. The decorations in the main hall were simple and unadorned. It was covered in dust as though no one had been here for a long time. In the middle of the hall was an incomparably huge ball of stars. The stars in the sky were engraved on the ball like diamonds. The star runes were dazzling and immediately emitted a blinding light. The light was mysterious and ancient, surging with brilliance. Whoosh! In Su Yi's palm, the purple-gold heavenly star, soul-stirring sword appeared spontaneously and emitted a mysterious, immemorial blade radiance. It flew directly towards the ball of stars. Instantly, the ball revealed a misty and cloud-like radiance. The heavenly star, soul-stirring, sword radiance surged. The blade tilted to the left and then tilted as though it was observing an old friend. Could it be that they know each other? Su Yi was in disbelief. Both of them were made of the same material, but the heavenly star, soul-stirring sword only had a purple-gold radiance. After the sword spirit possessed it, Ling Qianxue did not feel the existence of the power of stars. They are getting familiar with each other. The sword spirit is taking the initiative to get close to the ball. In the heavenly origin demon soul, Ling Qianxue's intimacy with the sword spirit had reached the highest level. She was very clear about the sword spirit's every move. Swish! A condensed spiritual qi burst out in an instant. Sui could not help but be speechless. Such a vast power of stars was crazily fluctuating. Compared to the power of stars in the star token, it was simply like the light of a firefly. The ball began to split from the middle and spread out in all directions like a flower. The unparalleled radiance formed instantly lit up the entire hidden origin hall. What a terrifying energy! Su-yi praised in his heart. After the energy dissipated, the heavenly astral soul essence's saber light flickered slightly and suddenly rose into the air. It drew an arc in the air and directly drilled into the large round ball. A subtle sound spread out, like the sound of thunder from the ancient times, and disappeared in a flash. Boom! Starlight poured down, and the entire space suddenly trembled. After the saber light entered his body, the sphere directly wrapped around him and slowly closed up. Oh no! Sacred weapon! When Su-yi saw the sacred weapon being swallowed by the ball, he was shocked. His figure suddenly moved forward. Under the space, an irresistible force pushed Su-yi away. The power of stars in his body suddenly flowed into the ball like flowing water. Su-yi's expression changed. He immediately activated the Origin Supreme technique under his feet. The spiritual chi in his meridians started to circulate. The mysterious ball of light in his mind started to flash continuously. It contained an aura that could not be provoked. It was majestic and destructive. The familiar mysterious power emerged again. Dong dong. Su-yi could feel the pain in his body. His eyes were bloodshot, like a golden sun shining. The aura in his body became more and more terrifying. Master! Suddenly, a mysterious power gathered around Su-yi. The yin-yang two nether immediately felt a power that made their hearts skip a beat. Chapter 1457. Yin-ming and Yang-ming looked at Su-yi's strange appearance. His body was shrouded in white mist, and he looked like a jade man. Boundless chi flowed out from Su-yi's limbs and bones. The Yin-yang-ming and Yang-ming were shocked. They wanted to go forward, but they were repelled by the surging chi and could not get closer. This was the second time they felt the pressure and power in the depths of their souls after they submitted to Su-yi. Such majestic energy made the Yin-yang-ming and Yang-ming's souls tremble. They could not help but tremble, and the next moment, they were about to crawl on the ground. Don't come over! Su-yi's eyes lit up, and he suddenly roared. Strong winds and turbid waves rose into the sky. He had experienced this feeling before. He had not borrowed the energy of the mysterious ball of light for a long time. Even though he had cultivated the Yuanyang heavenly dragon bone and had the body of diamond to protect his body, the heart-wrenching and lung-tearing feeling made him very uncomfortable. Chi-la, a terrifying hot aura, was suddenly released from his body. Only Su-yi could clearly feel that the mysterious ball of light was constantly compressing and expanding in his body. The hot and abundant energy was constantly rising in his body, like a bright energy fireball, reflecting the heavenly origin demonic soul. This is... Ling Qianxue's gaze trembled. She was in Su-yi's body, and she could clearly feel that the mysterious ball of light in Su-yi's meridians had raised the primordial chi to an extreme state. If it were someone else, they would have been torn apart. Ling Qianxue sighed in her heart. Su-yi's flesh and blood were too abnormal. She could clearly feel that the power of the stars in the ball seemed to have come from ancient times. It was incomparably majestic, and it resonated with the primordial chi in the great void sea in Su-yi's body. Buzz buzz! The giant ball, shrouded in starlight, was constantly rotating. The power of the stars emitted from the buzzing sound directly merged with the mysterious energy in Su-yi's body. Two unparalleled ancient energies, which seemed to have traveled through tens of thousands of years, were like two dragons swimming in Su-yi's body. They swept through Su-yi's body violently. Puchi, the source of power, was like a great river, causing Su-yi's blood and chi to surge. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was extremely pale. Boom! The blazing and monstrous aura continued to rise. Finally, under Su-yi's furious roar, it immediately spread and exploded. Yin Ming and Yang Ming beside him immediately retreated. Their hair stood on end, and a hint of shock flashed in their eyes. Looking at Su Yi, who was standing in front of the sphere, his clothes were already tattered from the impact of the energy, and the torn corners of his clothes fluttered in the wind. Su Yi, who couldn't see anything, let out a low and hoarse voice from his throat. His entire body was bathed in blood, and his eyes were red and dazzling like the sun. "There's someone outside the palace. Quickly go and stand guard." At this time, Su Yi, whose mind was filled with the mysterious ball of light, had reached the peak of his spiritual power and hearing. Even if he couldn't see, he could feel that an expert was flying quickly toward Hidden Origin Palace. Su Yi, who was on the verge of being hit by the energy, could explode and collapse at any time. He had to concentrate. When he felt that the expert was approaching, he knew that it was not friendly. He was afraid that there would be a change, so he immediately asked the Yin Yang Ming to stand guard and block the incoming force. The Yin Yang Ming and the Yin Yang Ming looked at each other. They knew that there was no one here to help them, so they said softly, "Master, be careful." Demonic chi soared around his body. The strange demonic light carried an imposing manner as fast as lightning, and he left the hall with a light tap. Immediately, the entire hall was left with the buzzing sound of the sphere and Su Yi's figure in the darkness. In the darkness, Su Yi's exquisite body began to expand. Cracks gradually appeared, and he was about to be destroyed. There was a faint sonorous sound of wind and thunder. What the hell is going on? Su Yi thought to himself. When he was trying his best to deal with it, he clearly felt that the sudden power of the stars and the mysterious ball of light on his body both came from the ancient times. They were of the same origin and had some similarities. They were definitely not something that an ordinary person could have. Just as he was wondering, an incomparably old and weak voice spread in Su Yi's mind. "Young man, are you from Shunjin Gate?" The voice floating the void really gave Su Yi a fright. Su Yi hadn't heard the name Shunjin Gate for a long time. At this time, it sounded strange yet familiar. Su Yi's eyes were dazzling at this time. He was like a god who couldn't see anything. So he tilted his head slightly, raised his eyebrows, and listened carefully. "Who is it?" Finally, "The people from Shunjin Gate are here." The old voice seemed to have confirmed Su Yi's identity. It was like a faint sound from the sky lingering in Su Yi's ears. A thought appeared in Su Yi's mind. As soon as he arrived, he found that there were no signs of people here for a long time. He was suspicious and blurted out, "Are you a 9-star old ancestor?" "Ha!" The old voice was slightly stagnant and said with a little dispirited aura, "It's just a wisp of remnant soul. I'm glad that you still remember my name in this world." As expected, Su Yi was shocked. He thought that the old ancestor was still alive. It turned out that he was no longer in the human world. He was just a wisp of remnant soul. "Old ancestor, can you tell me what's going on?" The aura around Su Yi was very strange. His eyes were blood red, and his whole body seemed to be dyed red with blood. The swollen primordial chi could make him explode and die at any time. "Relax. All the star power in the sea of calamity is pouring into your body. It's not easy for you to hold on until now." As soon as the old ancestor finished speaking, from the depths of the Hidden Origin Hall, a tiny wisp of remnant soul energy attached to Su Yi's body like a breeze. The white primordial chi around Su Yi's body became denser and denser, and the star power in his body was reduced by a lot. The battle between the Origin Supreme technique and the star power was much more intense. Under the support of the old ancestor's remnant soul, Su Yi's aura was no longer obstructed, and the energy gathered around him was no longer affected. The Origin Supreme technique was crazily activated, and the star power was instantly converted into spiritual power. It was crazily refined together with the spiritual power in the great void sea in his body. The majestic spiritual power filled Su Yi's eyes, and his face began to turn red. The veins on his face also bulged like earthworms. He looked a little ferocious. The energy of heaven and earth surged towards him like a tide and poured into the great void sea. Su Yi's body was like a bottomless pit, allowing the energy to pour in. Gradually, there were signs of filling up. In the meridians of his limbs, the primordial chi flowed at an extremely fast speed. Su Yi couldn't help but look sideways. Was he about to break through? His spiritual power is increasing rapidly. Ling Qianxue could feel the primordial qi in Su Yi's body condensing continuously. The great void sea was like an energy whirlpool that kept accumulating. Chapter 1458. At the same time, what surprised Su Yi was that the power of the stars, which originally conflicted with the spirit qi of ordinary martial artists, had become extremely docile after being refined by the Origin Supreme technique. Instead of blocking, it directly merged into Su Yi's meridians. Countless specks of starlight were turning into incomparably pure energy under the activation of the Origin Supreme technique at an unprecedented speed, echoing with a mysterious ball of light in Su Yi's mind. It was like 10,000 beasts galloping, whistling incessantly. Time passed by minute, but Su Yi's figure was still as motionless as a rock. The milky white yuan qi around him was constantly rising and lingering, accompanied by the surge of yuan qi, emitting the sonorous sound of wind and thunder. In the hidden Origin Hall, in the Tranquil Hall, Su Yi's aura was constantly rising, and the yuan qi in his body was gradually materializing like a gel, filling the entire meridians, shining with a mysterious brilliance. The ball of light was constantly beating like a heart, reducing Su Yi's pain by a lot. The changes in Su Yi's body were seen by the 9-star old ancestor in the depths. He was slightly surprised and whispered, "Is this the will of the heavens? Little friend, hold on. The 7 pieces of meteoric iron are operating all the power of the stars on the meteoric iron essence stone you brought." The voice of a 9-star old ancestor once again echoed in Su Yi's ears. 7 pieces of meteoric iron? Su Yi closed his eyes and asked with rapt attention. The sacred tool blade spirit is cast from meteoric iron essence stone and contains endless power of the stars. Since the essence stone has recognized you as its master, it is sharing the energy of heaven and earth with you. Once it succeeds, you will obtain supreme benefits. You must hold on. Hearing this, Su Yi's heart suddenly calmed down a little. That day in the Divine Sword Valley, he heard the old ancestor of Shunjian Gate mention that the starry sky soul was cast from meteoric iron essence stone. He didn't expect that the ball in front of him was also cast from meteoric iron and of the same origin. The guy's also not here. The 9-star old ancestor's voice was weak, as if he was going to die at any time. Seeing that Su Yi's breathing was gradually stabilizing, the patriarch's voice sounded again. Yes, great ancestor Shun Jian left the human world a long time ago, leaving behind only the red dragon divine sword and the heavenly star soul essence. After saying this, Su Yi shook his head and smiled bitterly in his heart. Actually, Su Yi still had 2 books, Sword Basics and Saber Basics. To Su Yi, other than increasing his saber proficiency, he really didn't know what else to say. Su Yi really didn't know what to say. Ancestor, was it your idea to deal with the heaven-desiring Snow Ape clan? Su Yi continued to ask. The 9-star patriarch fell into silence for a moment and said faintly, "I wasn't the only one who discovered this secret land. It was the patriarch of Shunjian Gate and the patriarch of Qingyan sect. The 3 of us discovered it together. This is also the territory of the 9 spirit links. Yu Qian, Qi Yin, and the 1,000 faces all belong to the 9 spirit links." Hearing that this matter was related to the 9 spirit links, Ling Qianxue immediately perked up and listened carefully. Originally, the 3 of us traveled the world together and came to the Chaos territory to find a secret place to break through. After we found the 9 spirit territory, we found that this place was very suitable for cultivation. However, we didn't expect that this place already belonged to someone else. After some fighting, we gave up and went to find another place. The 9-star patriarch paused and said again, "The old man from Shunjian Gate had a higher cultivation level than us. He gave up the 9 spirit territory and stopped looking for a secret place. However, I didn't give up and kept looking. Finally, one day I found this place. The 9 islands were formed naturally and were full of spirit chi. There might be differences, but they were all suitable for cultivation. So, I invited the 2 of them to come in together. At that time, the 3 of us were at a critical stage of cultivation breakthrough and needed a place like this. After making a deal with the Heavenly Desire clan, we were able to cultivate in the lower 3 islands. Until one day, the patriarch of Shunjian Gate told me that he found a meteorite on the lower 3 islands. After verification, it didn't belong to the Heavenly Desire Snow Ape clan. He then discussed with the 2 of us whether we could help him forge 2 weapons. At that time, the patriarch of Qingyin's sect used his ice flames to forge metal and stone. Only his elemental yuan qi could make the meteorite take shape. His good friend obtained the treasure and was naturally happy. After that, the 2 sacred weapons were born. He really didn't expect that the 2 sacred weapons would be so stunning that he couldn't bear to part with them. He muttered to himself as he continued to refine and listen to the 9-star patriarch tell the story of the 3 of them. It was basically the same as what Shuizhong said. The patriarch of Shunjian Gate had a higher cultivation level than us. Once the sacred weapon appeared, his cultivation level skyrocketed. At this point, the 9-star patriarch choked on his words and sighed deeply. The hardships of the past were finally revealed in front of everyone like dust that had been unraveled. I was young and vigorous. Gradually, I had the desire to compete with others. I was the one who discovered the secret place, but I was repeatedly surpassed by others. I felt unsatisfied. Later, we found that there was a meteorite hidden under each of the 9 islands. This discovery made me overjoyed. The turning point of the matter began from below. Su Yi and Ling Qianxue listened quietly. One day, I discussed with them and wanted to take all the islands. Wouldn't it be better if the meteorite was divided among the 3 of us? Sigh. They all agreed. Sui asked. The old man's voice was obviously trembling as he continued. The patriarch of Shunjian Gate didn't say anything, but the old man of Shunjian Gate felt that we had to get permission to cultivate on the 3 lower islands. The meteorite was not something inherent in heaven. It was okay to take it for our own use. However, if we snatched other people's islands in order to occupy the meteorite, that would be the act of bandits. We absolutely could not do that. Hearing this, Su Yi nodded gently. The patriarch of Shunjian Gate was still upright and outspoken. The reason why Shunjian Gate was able to stand in Zhongzhou State for so many years was not only because of its foundation, but also because of its justice and persistence. It was indeed not easy. Suddenly, he yearned for Shunjian Gate more. Great ancestor Shunjian's temper is quite similar to Elder Su's. Su Yi muttered to himself. At that time, I was obsessed with martial arts. How could I care so much? My crazy jealousy made me think that he was worried that we would surpass him. Gradually, my heart became distorted. So one day, I snatched his red dragon. I was surprised to find that the power of the stars contained in the meteorite was similar to the secret method I cultivated. God took pity on me and allowed me to finally comprehend the star record, which could draw the stars of heaven and earth for my own use. However, the sacred weapon was just born and the sword spirit was tender. Unexpectedly, it was contaminated by my resentment, which almost made me fall into the devil's path. At this point, the great ancestor's voice was very low. Su Yi knew that the 9-star great ancestor also felt guilty about the past. Chapter 1459. After a long while, the voice became louder again. Paper can't wrap fire. The great ancestor of Shunjian Gate still found out about this. He was furious. He was angry that I stole the sacred tools for my own benefit. He was also disappointed that I had evil thoughts and fell into the devil's path. The 2 of us then had an earth-shattering battle. Su Yi knew what happened after that. In the end, great ancestor Shunjian, who was more skilled, took away both sacred tools. People of different paths could not work together. He cut off contact with the 9-star great ancestor and Qingyin's sect. drawing a clear line and leaving Zhongzhou State. The great ancestor's voice was full of sadness. It wasn't until later that I found out that he established a sect in Zhongzhou State and built Xinjiang Gate. I never had the face to visit him again. At this time, Su Yi completely understood that there was such a secret behind the establishment of Xinjiang Gate. The devil way of the sword that had put him in danger back then had come from the 9-star great ancestor. This was too bizarre. Su Yi, who was frantically refining spirit qi, couldn't help but shake his head. What happened after that? The 9-star great ancestor continued in the depths of the void. After the divine sword left and the red dragon left my hand, I became much more clear-headed. However, the devil's path had not been purified. The anger and resentment in my heart increased day by day. Not long after, I drove the great ancestor of Qinyan's sect out of Jiuxing Sea and became his enemy. The sigh was like an ant attached to the voice, full of regret and sadness. At that time, I didn't think too much. I only thought about cultivating the star record crazily, going to the 3 upper islands to drive away the 3 demons, occupying the islands in the Sea of Calamity, and plucking all the remaining 7 pieces of meteorite iron. More and more desires filled my heart, and my competitive heart reached an unprecedented level. Therefore, I also established Jiuxing Valley and emptied the Sea of Calamity, hoping that one day I could prove to great ancestor Xinjiang that I was right and that the strong were the kings. It was all because of desire. Ling Qinshu sighed softly. She sounded calm now, but who knew what kind of bloody scene it was at that time? Su Yi also sighed. It seemed that the great ancestor wanted to prove himself, but the result was self-evident. The great ancestor said, "The meteoric metal came from beyond the heavens, and the spatial laws of the entire divine calamity sea are related to the meteoric metal. Once it was pulled out, the spatial laws would quietly change." I only found out about this later on, but it was already too late. I was already in my twilight years, and could only watch as the Heavenly Desire clan's cultivation continued to increase and the spiritual energy in the divine calamity sea continued to decline. However, there was nothing I could do to reverse the situation. Perhaps it was because the stellar records were closely related to the demonic Sword Dao back then. After cultivating it for a long period of time, those who were obsessed with it would easily go to the extreme. Thus, when the sect master and grand elder entered the Calamity Sea, it was a form of harm to the Heaven's Desire clan. After saying that, Su Yi suddenly thought of Elder Tang Wang. Yes, Elder Tang had a free and easy personality. His pursuit of martial arts was even more dependent on fate. This way, he would be less affected by the star records and would not be too obsessed with the peak of martial arts. But Chen Feng and Chen Yu were different. They handed the 9 Stars Valley to the young Chun Yao when they were in their middle age. They had high hopes for him. No elders knew about it, so he had to rely on himself. This had unknowingly caused Chun Yao's mentality to be distorted. The older I am, the more I see through the world. All these years, I have been waiting for an opportunity. I hope to make up for my mistakes. The great ancestor's voice was like gossamer, about to disappear at any time. Su Yi could not hear it clearly, but he listened with rapt attention. The space rules have changed. The meteorite iron's ability to attract the energy of heaven and earth has become weaker. In order to prevent Chen Feng and Chen Yu from using the last of the stars for their own use, I sealed the hidden origin hall. Now that you have finally come, the meteorite iron has recognized you as its master. Being able to help you refine it is enough to make me happy. His voice was like gossamer, drifting in the depths of the void. Little friend, what is your name? Handsome and otherworldly. Little friend, I hope you can leave this world gracefully and not be implicated by the secular world. Remember, the pursuit of martial arts should be the righteous path. Boom! A bright light instantly rushed into Su Yi's glabella. The aura around Su Yi's body began to rise again. A majestic energy flowed into his meridians along with the power of the stars, fusing with the Yuan Qi of the Origin Supreme technique. A beam of energy suddenly rushed from the top of the sphere into Su Yi's head. It was like a thunderclap. Suyi's entire body was wrapped in starlight from head to toe. If the Yin-Yang Tu Nether could see this, they would be incomparably shocked. The entire hidden origin hall was like an energy vortex. The energy that was constantly gathering in the air was once again poured in. The Origin Supreme technique in Suyi's body was already circulating. The unparalleled power of the stars melted in his meridians. A star seemed to be gradually materializing in his meridians, turning into a small gate. As soon as it was formed, it became very dim. Suddenly, the mysterious light in Suyi's body was no longer vague. The white smoke gradually retreated. A majestic message that transcended heaven and earth directly entered Suyi's mind. Divine spiritual pulse? Suyi immediately exclaimed. It turned out that the 6th level of the Origin Supreme technique was actually the divine spiritual pulse. The divine spiritual pulse belonged to the Origin Ancestor realm. The Origin Ancestor realm was the watershed of martial arts cultivation. Only by entering the Origin Ancestor realm could one have a glimpse of the rules of heaven and earth and be close to the laws of nature. In heaven and earth, there were 2 kinds of Origin Ancestor realm. The difference was whether one had the divine spiritual pulse or not. Even without the divine spiritual pulse, one could already be called an expert in the world. Compared to the Origin Emperor realm, it was a crushing existence. However, with the divine spiritual pulse, one would be a god's chosen son. There would be 108 hidden entrances in one's body. The opening of each hidden entrance would double one's cultivation. Therefore, there was a saying that was passed down: a mysterious spirit cultivator is a god, a gift from the heavens. A hidden entrance is the foundation of the divine spiritual pulse. The vital chi meridians can be reconstructed. Once the divine spiritual pulse is completed, the hidden entrance will be inherited. In the entire Tianyin continent, no one had ever cultivated the divine spiritual pulse from Merciless West. What a terrifying existence. Suyi could hear the last restriction in his great void divine ocean collapse. After that, he felt an indescribable sense of comfort. The majestic vital chi in his body made him crazy. Suyi felt that he was extremely close to heaven and earth. The vital chi and meridians that had been crazily refined to the extreme were like sparkling lines on Suyi's body. There were countless silver-white light spots on them. Each light spot was like a hidden entrance for energy, shining with a bright and mysterious light. All along, Suyi could feel that his vital chi was shackled by his meridians. No matter how wide his meridians were, he had to go with the flow. Now that there were so many hidden entrances, Suyi could feel that his vital chi was flowing smoothly, even though his vital chi was rising crazily. The faint feeling of an invisible barrier blocking his vital chi became very subtle. Chapter 1460. At this moment, Suyi suppressed the excitement in his heart. He could feel that the power of the stars around him was beginning to dry up. He quickly circulated the Origin Supreme technique to refine the power of the stars in the void without leaving a trace behind. After a long time, the power of the stars stopped pouring into his body. Everything in the hidden Origin Palace had stopped and returned to normal. The voice of the old ancestor had also died and disappeared completely. Suyi let out a long breath as his body staggered slightly. When he opened his eyes again, the light seemed to have materialized and shot out. His pitch-black eyes had become even deeper, like the stars hanging in the sky. Suyi, who had exhausted all his strength, was somewhat exhausted. His face was incomparably pale as he knelt on the ground and supported his body with both hands. "You have cultivated the divine, spiritual pulse?" Ling Qinshu still felt that it was unbelievable. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, it would have been hard to believe. Suyi smiled weakly and sat on the ground. He leaned against a stone pillar and began to meditate. Looking inside his body, he saw 108 hidden entrances arranged in an orderly manner in his wide meridians. Every one of them was very dim and had no luster. They were still in an unopened state. It should be. I just don't know how long it will take to open a hidden entrance. The cultivation of a Yuanyang sky dragon bone was still vivid in Su Yi's mind. It could be said to be abnormal. Although the Origin Supreme technique had already told him about the divine spiritual pulse, he still couldn't understand the specific method to open it. You should be satisfied with the divine spiritual pulse of the Origin Emperor realm. When you reach the Origin Ancestor realm, you will naturally understand the profoundness of it. Su Yi's good luck made Ling Qianxue not want to talk to him. But to Su Yi's surprise, his meridians had become much wider and thicker than before after the opening of the hidden lattice. His surging primordial qi could circulate without any hindrance. This way, the use of martial techniques would be much smoother, and the power would increase by more than just a few times. If all the hidden entrances were opened, it was hard to imagine what kind of level he could reach. He was suddenly filled with anticipation. The Origin Supreme technique could even refine the power of the stars that were extracted from the essence of heaven and earth. It could be said to be abnormal. What was certain was that the mysterious light cluster was even older and more advanced than the power of the stars. Sacred Mountain, there's no need to worry about trampling on injustice. He secretly clenched his fists. This accidental trip to the Nine Stars Valley allowed him to understand the history of great ancestor Shunjian. The starry sky had been awakened, and he had obtained the divine spiritual meridians. This was a most perfect ending. More importantly, the vast and boundless great void divine sea was filled to the brim due to the cultivation of the power of the stars. The realm that he had been suppressing could be broken through at any time. He raised his hand and tapped his chin. He decided not to break through. This was not a good time. He would leave it until he got out of the valley. Bang! With a loud bang, the sphere no longer revolved when He stopped refining it. After He adjusted his breathing and recovered, the 7 spheres made of meteorites collapsed on the ground. An incomparably resplendent saber light flew into Su Yi's palm. When the saber spirit entered his hand, He was flabbergasted. Even though He had already cultivated the body of the guardian deity and was nourished by the dragon soul, he was still amazed by the power of the stars contained in the saber spirit. It's too majestic. The meteorite could originally store the power of the stars. After the awakening, it was filled with the power of the stars. At this time, the purple-gold starry sky essence was flickering with starlight. The starry lines were flowing like a divine weapon. A majestic and terrifying power of heaven and earth was faintly ringing. It could split the hidden Origin Palace in half at any time. How many people in the Origin Emperor realm can compete with this power alone? He was overjoyed. After the Calamity Sea, all the power of the stars had been poured into the starry sky essence and his body. This divine weapon was simply an invincible existence compared to the ordinary soul divine weapons. A divine weapon could really move mountains and seas and split heaven and earth. He praised in his heart. Bang, bang. A startled sound outside broke Su Yi's contemplation. He looked at the fierce battle outside and frowned slightly. The 9-star-old ancestor had set up a restriction in the hidden Origin Palace. The 9-star-old ancestor, who had an epiphany in his later years, couldn't restrain Chunfeng and Chunyu. He could only seal the remaining power of the stars and prevent the Calamity Sea from collapsing. It was also considered as compensation for the Heavenly Desire clan. It seems that someone doesn't want peace. The pursuit of martial arts should be pursued through the right path. After saying that, the primordial qi under Su Yi's feet suddenly appeared, and a figure suddenly disappeared. When the Yin-Yang 2 Nether brothers followed Su Yi's words and left the hidden Origin Palace, the scene outside had already shocked them. Above the vault of heaven, dark clouds covered the sky. Above the hidden Origin Palace, there was only a sky full of stars that were shining brightly. The surging power of heaven and earth seemed to have passed through the ancient times. The accumulated gloominess caused heaven and earth to tremble. Countless tiny flashes of lightning appeared in the sky. The distant light pillar in the sky connected with the vault of heaven. The sonorous muffled thunder was like a heavenly drum, shattering the void. Hidden Origin Island, which was originally like a fairyland, had become extremely strange. The Great Minister was coming. The Green Emperor's side is also very lively. I wonder if it went smoothly. Ming looked in the direction of the middle three islands, and a ray of light surged in his eyes. It's coming. In Ming's incomparably handsome eyes, a small snow-white figure rapidly grew larger in his pupils. Boom! The two Nether brothers operated their demonic chi at the same time. The demonic chi was like a wave that expelled the gloomy air in the surroundings. The soft soil suddenly flipped over like a page of a book. 5th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm. Absolutely strong. The 5th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm was more powerful than Chun Feng's 4th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm. In the Origin Ancestor Realm, each level was more difficult than the last. Perhaps two Qin Fengs might not be a match for Qinyu. Ming and Yang Ming's eyes were filled with solemnity. They turned back to look at the hidden Origin Palace. The sky was full of stars, and it was as bright as day. The two of them knew that Su Yi had reached the most critical moment and could not afford to lose. Even if they had to give it their all, they could not let Su Yi have any mishaps. The silver-haired Chun Yu had already seen the strange scene in the hidden Origin Palace from afar. The desire in his eyes was like a flash flood. The Ancestor's restriction has finally been opened. There's still spiritual energy in the Calamity Sea. Chun Yu looked at the rich power of the stars and waved his hands. He immediately sped up, leaving only a faint trace in the air. Two thieves. Starlight flickered around Chun Yu's body. He took a step forward and arrived in front of Ming and Yang Ming. When he sensed the cultivation of the Yang Ming and Yang Ming, a cold light shot out from Chun Yu's eyes. Ignorant little demons, I don't want to be stained with blood. Get lost. If you delay me, don't blame me for being merciless. Seeing Chun Yu's attack, the Yang Ming and Yang Ming did not retreat. Instead, they operated the demonic chi in their bodies to the maximum. Golden dragon patterns vaguely covered the black and white balls of light. An unparalleled aura shook the dark clouds in the distance. You're courting death. The actions of the two instantly enraged the anxious Chun Yu, and killing intent rose in his heart. Chapter 1461. The spiritual chi in the Calamity Sea was declining, and his star record had reached a bottleneck. Now was the time when he needed the power of the stars the most. Chun Yu had been waiting for the Ancestors' Hall to open day and night in an attempt to monopolize the remaining power of the stars. You trespassed into my 9-star Calamity Sea. It's your fortune to die in my hands. Chun Yu's eyes were cold, and he did not take the Yin-Yang twins seriously. As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful ray of light flowed out of Chun Yu's fingertip. The unparalleled force was like a shockwave that scattered the Yin-Yang twins' aura. A powerful suction force pulled the Yin-Yang twins over from afar, and their bodies unconsciously moved forward. The terrifying starlight was like a waterfall that twisted the surrounding space. Oh no, too powerful! Ming and Yang Ming exclaimed in unison. Under the heavy pressure, the Yin-Yang twins kept flying toward Chun Yu, and their minds once again felt a terrifying soul aura. A 5th-level Origin Ancestor Realm cultivator could suppress both his soul and martial power with just a raise of his hand. The Yin-Yang 2 Nether strength, which was comparable to a Origin Ancestor Realm cultivator's, was too weak in front of Chun Yu. A sinister smile appeared on Chun Yu's wrinkled face after he succeeded in one move. Suddenly, there was a whizzing sound behind him, and a ray of sword light suddenly appeared and cut Chun Yu's energy waterfall in half. Aren't you trespassing as well? Boom! In the void, the violent collision immediately formed a terrifying energy storm that swept toward the Yin-Yang twins. The two of them were sent flying backward like cannonballs and landed heavily on the pillars of the hidden Yuan Hall. Bang! The pillar made of Vajra was immediately smashed into a shocking pit, and the cracks under the pillar that looked like a baby's arm spread out endlessly. The two of them, who were attacked, spat out a mouthful of blood. Their faces were pale, and Tang Wang's short figure gradually appeared in their weak eyes. "Little Tang, why are you here?" Chen Yu raised his eyebrows. He obviously did not expect Tang Wang to come. "Master Chen Yu, it's rare that you still remember me. We haven't met for many years, and your cultivation has improved rapidly." Tang Wang's eyes blazed like stars as he stared at Chen Yu. His body stood straight like a sharp blade. Although he was exchanging pleasantries, his eyes were extremely cold as he stared at Chen Yu. "Second level of origin ancestor realm. You've improved quickly outside, but your heart isn't on the martial way. Otherwise, how could he only have this level of cultivation?" Chen Yu coldly snorted. Tang Wang smiled faintly. He was adopted by the Nine Stars Valley since he was a child. His talent was extraordinary, and he was a strong candidate for the position of Valley Master. However, because he was indifferent to fame and fortune and had a free and easy temperament, he wandered around and avoided the affairs of the valley. However, the question that Tang Wang was most concerned about was pressing down on his heart like a huge rock. "Master Chen Yu, is the Nine Stars Valley really occupying other people's territories and islands? Is it really that unbearable?" After saying that, a trace of pain flashed across Tang Wang's face. He was still unwilling to believe it. Even if he said it out loud, Su Yi's heart still trembled. "We haven't seen each other for many years. Little Tang, other than your appearance being old, why is your heart still like a child's?" Chen Yu flicked his sleeves and frowned. Tang Wang's words had made Chen Yu very unhappy. Chen Yu's few words had confirmed the answer that Tang Wang had never dared to think of. He was a little absent-minded, and his nose twitched. Many words were stuck in his throat, and he could no longer speak. The Nine Stars Valley shouldn't be like this. Tang Wang was stunned and muttered softly. The Yin-Yang brothers fell under the stone pillar and slowly wiped the blood from the corners of their mouths. Their brows were also extremely solemn. This Nine Stars Valley was really too evil from top to bottom. From Chun Yao to Nangong Heng, from Chun Feng to Chun Yu, they could actually make bad things sound so righteous and awe-inspiring. They were not even half wrong at all. Their pursuit of martial way and fame had reached a twisted level. How treacherous and cunning. Compared to us barbaric beasts, they are really too kind. Yin Ming was full of anger and frowned. He felt that Tang Wang was not worth it. The strong are respected. If your skills are inferior, you deserve to be reduced to an ant. Without the power of the stars, how could the Nine Stars Valley be where it is today? This is a world where you fight to the death. Little Tang, don't be wishy-washy. This old man has been waiting for this moment for too long. Tang Wang's snow-white beard fluttered in the wind. His trembling hands were deeply clenched into his flesh and bones. His joints were being squeezed so hard that creaking sounds could be heard. Stubborn and unrepentant, the reputation of a Nine Stars Valley has been completely ruined by you. Impudent, Chen Yu also roared. A ball of starlight kept rising from his hand. It was compressed and controlled. The extremely condensed energy exploded with sonorous sounds of wind and thunder. "I will say for the last time, don't interfere. Don't blame this old man for ignoring our friendship," Chen Yu said coldly as if he was giving an ultimatum. Tang Wang's lips curved into a smile. "Master Chen Yu, I have said before, if you are wrong, I will live and die with you." His figure quickly glowed, and an incomparably thick aura suddenly descended. Tang Wang's aura was like a mountain. The starlight around his body surged to the extreme as he confronted Chen Yu. "Ah, count me in to kill the Nine Stars dog." Everyone's expression changed. There was a slight fluctuation in their eyes. Yin Ming's eyes lit up immediately as he exclaimed, "Green Emperor, they are here." After saying that, Yin Ming and Yang Ming also released their demonic aura and signaled to the Green Emperor. Although their auras were weak, their faces were filled with excitement. In the distance, the Green Emperor, Shuizhong, Zhuorou, and the four beasts transformed into their original forms. They were rushing over like arrows. Their murderous aura covered the sky and covered the earth. Chen Yu looked at the Green Emperor and the others who were rushing over from the middle three islands from afar. Their arrival meant that Chun Feng had already perished. Chun Feng's cultivation base was one level lower than him, but a fourth-level origin ancestor was not someone anyone could defeat. Chen Yu's face instantly turned pale. He saw that the Green Emperor and the others were all stained with blood, but their auras were still fierce. Their eyes were filled with bloodthirst and murderous intent. Looking closely, Meng Sun was standing on Xue Zhong's shoulder as they flew toward Hidden Yuan Island. Seeing Chun Yu, Meng Sun squinted his eyes and chuckled. "Old man Chun Yu, I haven't seen you for many years. You are still so sinister." The four beasts' huge bodies covered the sky and the sun. Their terrifying aura covered the entire Hidden Yuan Island like a wave. Chun Yu's heart skipped a beat. "A few more ants have come." Chun Yu stood with his hands behind his back. He was very confident in his own strength, so he was not afraid of a few ants. "Young man from the Green Flame sect, are you here to die?" Chun Yu's aura gradually spread out as his absolute territory unfolded. His eyes were clear, and a domineering aura swept out with the wind. Shuizhong leaped a few times and arrived in front of Hidden Yuan Hall. The entire Hidden Yuan Island became gloomier, and the dark clouds in the sky looked like they would collapse at any time. Please remember the domain name of this book.com. Wonderful Book Mobile Version Website.com. Chapter 1462. Meng Sun stood on Chun Yu's shoulder and looked at him. His face was full of disdain as he said in a deep voice, "You taught Chun Feng, but he's already dead. My Green Flame sect has a feud with you for several generations. If you know what's good for you, end it yourself." Meng Sun smiled slightly, but he glanced at the Green Emperor and the others from the corner of his eyes, indicating that he was ready to attack at any time. Hearing this, Chun Yu's figure suddenly rose into the air. His long sleeves swept out like a gust of wind, and a terrifying killing intent fell on everyone like a storm. Chun Yu looked at the hidden origin hall and became more and more anxious. He suddenly let out a thunderous roar. "What a joke. You're just an ant trying to shake a tree. Ridiculous. Don't even think about leaving here alive today. All of you can go to hell." Meng Sun's sarcasm completely ignited his anger. Suddenly, everyone's killing intent shot out. Their auras rose, and they all rose into the air to fight Chun Yu in the air. Astral winds whistled. The Green Emperor and the Yin-Yang twin Nether exchanged glances. They knew that Su-Yi was obtaining an opportunity inside. They didn't say anything else. Their eyes darkened, and they roared and rushed forward. Go! Go all out! At the same time, the Yin-Yang twin Nether's black and white light intertwined again and attacked Chun Yu, who was floating in the air. Tang Wang's entire body was wrapped in light. Thick and resplendent light shot out from his eyes. The originally gloomy sky suddenly became turbulent, and a silvery white light surged. Between heaven and earth, an invisible energy fluctuation descended. In a short moment, with Tang Wang as the center, the Yin-Yang twin Nether and the four beasts attacked Chun Yu together from all directions. Resplendent vitality and demonic aura light greeted Chun Yu. Bang! The destructive aura permeated the surroundings. Spatial cracks spread in the void. The aura was terrifying, and it could destroy everything. Heaven and earth were destroyed. Boom! In the blink of an eye, Chun Yu's gaze flickered slightly. He watched as countless palm prints and demonic lights slammed into his body. Immediately, starlight surged, and the absolute domain spread out like a solid wall. It was airtight and swallowed up all the attacks. Bang! The palm print hit Chun Yu's starlight domain, and the surrounding space suddenly became distorted and collapsed. The world shook, and the mountain range of Hidden Yuan Island was swept by the strong wind, and deep gullies like a spider web appeared for no reason. Bang, bang. You want to fight me? Trash, go to hell. Chun Yu roared madly, the anger in his heart erupting like a volcano. The countless palm imprints disappeared under everyone's shocked gazes. They cursed inwardly. Just as they were about to escape, they discovered that the astral domain had suddenly shrunk. following which it expanded violently, causing the sky to crumble and the earth to crack. Huge ripples appeared in a large area of space. The reverse impact was unstoppable. The force was even more violent than before, like an ancient mountain, and it pressed down on everyone. Violent energy ripples spread out crazily, as if they were solid. The sound of a violent collision resounded through the heavens and earth. The void rumbled, and a fierce wind accompanied by a fierce, killing intent instantly spread out. Tang Wang and Meng Sun were still standing in their original positions. At the same time, extremely thick cracks began to appear in their starlight domain and ice and fire domain. The Green Emperor and the Yin Yang Two Nether were once again smashed to the ground like cannonballs. Red mist filled the sky, and the scarlet blood chi rushed through the gloomy and dark hidden Yuan Island. Immediately, it was like a Jura hell. Chun Yu, who had used all his strength, was shining brightly, and an evil aura wrapped around his body like a talisman. Halala, the terrifying, monstrous energy spread out and shrouded the entire area. The Green Emperor and the others, who were paralyzed on the ground, dragged their huge bodies and slowly climbed up from the ground. Everyone's eyes were full of shock. The previous attack had weakened the four beasts, who had been through a bitter battle, to the extreme. Their ferocious faces were pale. When dealing with Chun Feng, the four beasts had already exhausted their demon chi. They had rushed over without stopping to help Su Yi. How could they withstand such a heavy attack at this time? The difference of one level in the Origin Ancestor realm is actually so terrifying. Looking at Chun Yu, who was looking down at everything around him from the sky, Tang Wang and Meng Sun's brows were solemn as they felt their hearts palpitate. In the face of absolute strength, it was not something that could be defeated by mere pride. In the end, you're just a bunch of ants. This old man will send you on your way. Chun Yu's beard and hair fluttered as he laughed arrogantly in the sky. On the other hand, the four beasts and the Yin Yang Two Nether were in pain from being crushed by Chun Yu's absolute strength. The four beasts could not help but sweat for Meng Sun when they saw the terrifying strength in front of them. Meng Sun and Tang Wang's aura were not in a good state either. Chun Yu's astral domain had just revealed its edge, and it had such a huge impact on them. Their eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. Tang Wang and Meng Sun stood up and stared at Chun Yu. Tang Wang was not careless. His rumbling clothes fluttered, and he had a sense of pride. Soon after, Tang Wang waved his sleeves and took out a pill from his space bag. He threw it to Meng Sun and Meng Sun to consume it together. Waves of majestic energy suddenly spread out. Meng Sun said with a clear laugh after wolfing down the elixir, "Great! Tang Wang, I like you the most in the 9 Stars Valley. Today, you put righteousness before family, and I will accompany you to the end." Huh! Meng Sun had already lost 2 personal disciples in this trip to the valley. If it weren't for the sake of guiding his personal disciples, Meng Sun would never have stepped into the 9 Stars Valley in this lifetime. Now that he could resolve the accumulated resentment in his heart and kill his old enemy, Meng Sun was very happy. Boom! Tang Wang, who had just recovered a bit of spiritual energy, was once again radiant with energy. A vast aura spread out, and the entire hidden Yuan island suddenly trembled. Tang Wang was like an astral war god, filled with golden light, and looked at Chun Yu as he spoke. The 9 Stars Valley has given me great kindness. Today, I am willing to sacrifice my body to the heavens and earth and repay the 9 Stars Valley with my life. Tang Wang shouted, and his figure rushed out quickly with unstoppable power. Starlight filled the sky around him, and in the next moment, he arrived in front of Chun Yu with a terrifying, destructive aura. "Stupid," Chun Yu said angrily. He continued to operate the astral domain in front of him. He stood in the void like a god, overlooking all living beings. Bang! As soon as the shout fell, Meng Sun arrived. The astral spiritual energy of the two surged out in an overwhelming manner and suddenly burst out without holding back in an instant. Everyone's eyes moved slightly. The 2 Yuan sect elders had taken out all their energy. The monstrous energy filled the air with the suppression of the soul. The pressure was impressive. It shook the wind and rain. Chunyu, who was hit by the strong wind, had a cold expression on his old face. He stomped his foot in the void, and his body wrapped in astral light rushed straight up. Countless palm lights accompanied by the power of the stars collided with Tang Wang and Meng Sun. Chapter 1463. Star Fantasy 7 Killing Palm. Chunyu's eyes darkened as he shouted. The starlight palm tore through the cracks in the space in front of him at lightning speed and slammed towards Tang Wang with boundless ancient energy. In an instant, Chunyu pushed out his palm. 7 streaks of resplendent fluorescent light suddenly appeared between his fingers and spread out dozens of rays of light. As the light from the palm swallowed and spat out, it turned into a raging sea and swept towards the 2 standing men. Danger! A glint flashed across the Green Emperor's narrow eyes. 2 second-level Origin Ancestor Realm Martial Artists against a 5th-level Origin Ancestor Realm Martial Artist. The extremely powerful Chun Yu was still much stronger. If he didn't go all out, he would definitely lose. The few people who were watching from the side also held their breaths at this moment. Whether or not they could receive this attack was too crucial. Tang Wang's side also went all out. Green and blue flames mixed in with the endless starlight. Meng Sun's flaming palm was like a surging sea of fire. Bang! Tang Wang and Chun Yu's star territory collided. The territory in front of Tang Wang was instantly shattered, while Chun Yu's star territory had a crack the size of a baby's arm. Under the pressure of the violent chi, the sound of a sonic boom exploded in the air. Dong! Dong! Tang Wang clutched his chest as his face instantly turned pale. A wisp of blood gushed out from his throat as he kept retreating dozens of steps and slid to the entrance of Hidden Yuan Hall. PSSSD. Meng Sun's eyes were filled with shock as he watched Tang Wang get hit. Just as he was about to rescue Tang Wang, he heard a sound from Chun Yu's absolute territory. Good chance. Meng Sun made a prompt decision as his palm turned into a blade. The blade aura of the Ice Fire Aurora Blade followed the palm energy and poured into Chun Yu's absolute territory. The temperature within the absolute territory rose rapidly. The surrounding air immediately boiled and rolled, and a terrifying blazing energy illuminated the entire Hidden Yuan Island like a red sun. The boundless energy turned into a tornado and spread out in a circular shape. In an instant, the absolute territory was like a boiling pot. The fire-attributed green Yuan Qi was extremely violent as a strong gust of wind wreaked havoc and tore the air apart. The sharp sound of the wind breaking was ear-piercing. At the same time, the blue water-attributed Yuan Qi wrapped around Xinyu, and a huge pressure as deep as the sea surged towards Xinyu. Bang, bang, bang. Xinyu's star domain suddenly soared because of the sharp rise in temperature, and then shrank because of the sharp drop in temperature. Sonic booms were incessant on Hidden Yuan Island. It works. Meng Sun was very encouraged by his success in one move. Yao Yao's hand seal was released once again, and a huge blue fireball directly exploded above the astral domain. Boom! Chun Yu's astral field was like a giant energy ball. In an instant, the terrifying and majestic aura inside exploded. The entire astral field barrier rose into the sky like a bomb. Chun Yu was also sent flying by the impact. Everyone's pupils constricted, and they were pleasantly surprised. Bang! 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 The starlight domain exploded, and the light turned into specks of light that drifted away. In the space, destructive flame, energy, and starlight intertwined, and wave after wave of explosions sounded above the void. The violent air directly pushed the thick dark clouds away, and a ray of golden light shone through the gap. Pitter-patter, a golden rainbow hung in the sky. Because of the blazing high temperature, countless water vapor in the dark clouds turned into raindrops and sprinkled on Hidden Yuan Island. After this terrifying blow, Hidden Yuan Island became extremely quiet. The place where the impact had just occurred gradually cracked, and then spread in an instant, covering the entire outside of hidden Yuan Island. Puff! Tang Wang, who had been holding his breath, could no longer bear it. His chi dissipated, and a mouthful of blood surged up again. He looked weakly at the dim sky. Is he dead? Meng Sun also looked with narrowed eyes, and there was no trace of relaxation in his eyes. The terrifying aura of the entire hidden Yuan Island had not been annihilated. At this time, the violent airflow in the surrounding air was still constantly flowing. Meng Sun quickly took out a bottle of elixir and swallowed it. The cultivation of the 5th level of Origin Ancestor Realm was definitely the strongest among the strong. He would not die because of his sneak attack. At the same time, he also allowed the Green Emperor, Tang Wang, and the others to quickly recover. Boom! After a few breaths of time, the dark clouds gradually gathered again. In the distant sky, a small but extremely bright figure flew toward hidden Yuan Island like a light arrow. It was Chunyu, who had just been sent flying. At this time, his clothes were torn, and his skinny body was covered in blood. Obviously, the blow just now was beyond his expectations and caused him to suffer a lot. Light surged, and stars surrounded his body like armor. Starlight armor. Tang Wang's eyes were filled with shock. In the stellar record, no one except the ancestor could achieve the starlight armor, but Chunyu had actually mastered it. Spiritual chi could be exposed at the level of the Origin Void Realm, but it was extremely difficult to condense the spiritual chi to wrap around the whole body and protect it like a treasure armor. Once mastered, it could be controlled by the mind, and its hardness was at the 5th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm. Armor at the 5th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm? Meng Sun's eyes became more serious. Chunyu's aura changed abruptly. His eyes were filled with gloomy coldness, and the starlight around his body was incomparably violent, like a wanton and ferocious beast. I admit that the two of you have some strength, but your obstruction ends here. A ray of starlight flashed out of Chunyu's eyes, and the starlight pattern on the armor was dazzling and eye-catching. Looks like it's going to be an all-out attack. The Green Emperor muttered as he looked at hidden Yuan Palace behind him. The starlight was starting to dim, and Chunyu was about to launch an all-out attack. Master, we are all supporting you. Bang! Chunyu's body suddenly expanded, and the pattern on the armor on his body became clearer. A dragon-like light pillar with traces of light spots appeared between his palms, and the wind and thunder were incessant. Compared to astral wind, this move was like the difference between heaven and earth. The aura of the dragon-like radiance immediately became berserk to the extreme. It was overbearing and majestic. A faintly discernible dragon's roar resounded and unceasingly circled in the sky. Star Dragon Imperial Sky Flash. In the blink of an eye, there was a raging wind on hidden Yuan Island, and a materialized star dragon rushed out from his palms. Lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled within the dark clouds, carrying with it a thunderous, destructive aura. The monstrous lightning dragon that spanned across the sky swept over. Roar! The dragon's roar destroyed the void. The massive lightning dragon's aura smashed over like a mountain. Wherever it passed, the grass and trees would turn into nothing, and countless huge rocks would turn into dust and scatter. Too strong. Let's go. Meng Sun and Tang Wang shouted at the same time. The power of this move was unparalleled, and it was enough to destroy the heavens and earth. The strength of the 5th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm exploded, and the pressure of the heavens and earth swept across the island, causing the entire island to shake violently. Swish! Tang Wang pulled the Yin-Yang 2 nether in front of him, and together with Meng Sun, the 4 beasts circulated their origin chi to the maximum, breaking through the seal of the lightning dragon's origin chi, and retreated to both sides of the void. Swish! Chapter 1464. Chunyu seemed to have expected that the two parties would avoid the straight line of the lightning dragon. The lightning dragon roared as it split into two from its head. The two lightning dragons' strength was dispersed, but their speed was even faster. Go to hell! Chunyu roared in the air. Roar! The lightning dragon clones created a series of explosions in the air. Lightning surged, and the dazzling light made everyone unable to open their eyes. The monstrous power once again locked onto everyone's bodies. Under the raging power, waves of piercing pain came from their skin. The rampaging power made everyone tremble in fear. Just as everyone thought that it was going to be bad, Tang Wang and the others closed their eyes and waited for the final moment to arrive. A shocking explosion sounded in their ears. Bang! Immediately, a huge sonic boom resounded, and the entire space shook. The collision with the lightning dragon produced the sound of metal clashing, mixed with the surging of electricity. Whoosh! Tang Wang hurriedly opened his eyes, and a trace of surprise and amazement surged in his heart. He saw the same shocking starlight directly cut the lightning dragon in half. The two lightning dragons that had just split from their heads immediately shattered, turning into starlight that filled the sky. A vortex surged into the sky, and the spatial light that had been torn apart by the collision directly shattered. At that moment, a slender figure appeared at the end of the light. The corners of his clothes fluttered, and his body was crystal clear. Killing intent surged, and he was like a god of death. Vast and unparalleled yuan qi surged, causing ripples in the space. Master! Emperor Tang, Yin Ming, and Yang Ming shouted in surprise at the same time. The others also recognized that the attack just now was the work of Su Yi. Strange. How did this kid become so strong? Tang Wang could not help but click his tongue in wonder. Although Su Yi's cultivation had not changed, the yuan qi in his body had undergone a qualitative change. Yuan qi surged freely like flowing water, but it was extremely condensed. Even an Origin Ancestor Realm expert would not have such yuan qi energy. The power of the stars? Tang Wang, who cultivated the stellar records, could instantly sense that the power of the stars around Su Yi's body was abundant and powerful. Behind the majestic energy, the fire attribute yuan qi was even more powerful, like a divine bird soaring into the sky. What surprised Tang Wang even more was the purple gold blade in Su Yi's hand. Tang Wang recognized that it was a saint artifact that possessed the power of stars. Could this be the supreme opportunity that Kid obtained in the Ancestor's Palace? That's right. The power of stars came from inside. Tang Wang pondered for a moment. The sacred artifact has recognized its master. Saber's spirit tyrannical. Meng Sun's eyes flashed with a fiery passion. Su Yi's appearance had turned the situation around, and Meng Sun immediately felt a sense of pride. And at this time, Su Yi held the heavenly star shock soul in his hand. His eyes revealed a cold light, and an awe-inspiring feeling emerged. Boom! The fire attribute yuan qi under Su Yi's feet flowed out, and the image of a phoenix directly flowed out behind him. The heavenly star shock soul seemed to have sensed the terrifying power of the stars on Chunyu's body. The spear of the blade spun and let out a terrifying buzzing sound. The star patterns on the heavenly star shock soul circulated, and its turbid eyes suddenly glared with madness as it roared. You took the Ancestor's meteoric iron. It's actually a saint artifact. Chunyu's eyes stared straight at the blade in Su Yi's hand without moving for a moment. Su Yi turned around and looked at everyone. Everyone's aura was dispirited and extremely weak. His face immediately turned ashen, and his brows slightly raised. You injured them? What? Kid, you dare to be impudent when you're only at the Origin Void Realm. Hand over the saint artifact in your hand, or else you'll be tortured. F***CK, your grandmother. You're really shameless as a bandit. You snatched someone else's things, and you're still boasting shamelessly here. I'll return those words to you. In the next instant, Su Yi's figure instantly soared into the sky, and the heavenly star shock soul in his right hand swung out a strange arc in the sky before slashing towards Chunyu with a bang. Hiss! The blade light passed by, and the stars were dazzling. The sky changed color once again, and the entire sky was instantly dyed with a dazzling Milky Way. Vast and surging energy gushed out like a great river. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, Su-Yi executed the skyward steps in midair and raised his speed to the limit. After images flashed past in the sky, and Su-Yi pressed forward, Chun-Yu's strength at the origin ancestor realm caused Su-Yi to not dare hold back in the slightest, and he executed all his ultimate moves as soon as he attacked. As he looked at the starlight that filled the sky, Chun-Yu didn't imagine in the slightest that Su-Yi, who was at the 9th level of the origin stage, would be able to utilize such surging energy of the stars, and it was even inferior to the Star Dragon Imperial Flash that he used earlier. Chun-Yu instantly retreated explosively. Instantly, Su-Yi's figure flashed forward, and the Emperor Sparrow's silhouette was like a ball of blazing, flowing flames. The feathers on its body glittered and flickered, and a strand of heaven and earth energy that passed through the primeval times directly smashed onto Chun-Yu's chest like a tornado. Bang! The blade light and Emperor Sparrow's flowing flames collided, and a dazzling and strong light burst out from within, causing the entire space to instantly tremble as a continuous sound of sonic booms resounded out. The starlight armor that was just formed was directly shattered by Su-Yi's monstrous force because of the consumption of origin energy. Bang! Bang! Chun-Yu's chest was smashed solidly, and it instantly formed a depression, and he directly slid back a few steps along the trajectory in the sky. Kid, defeat the 9-star-old ghost. The enormous wave of force impacted Su-Yi and the others to the point their true energy endlessly surged, and their internal organs trembled. The eyes of Meng Sun, the Green Emperor, and the others lit up. Su-Yi's strength soared with a heavenly star shock in his hand, and he absolutely had the ability to compete with Chun-Yu. The heavenly star shock in his hand swayed left and right, and it seemed to be surging with battle intent as it ceaselessly revolved in Su-Yi's hand. Pooh! Su-Yi's shocking strike caused Chun-Yu to be heavily injured, and a mouthful of blood mist drifted out as fresh blood slowly flowed out. He didn't care about the injury from before in the slightest, and his expression became even more frenzied. As expected, invincible. Ha ha! The ancestor's legacy is mine. Kid, I'll take your life. Chun-Yu stood in the air and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and an evil aura danced around him. Whoosh! As soon as his voice fell, a starry longsword that was as thin as a cicada's wing gushed out from Chun-Yu's hand, and a cold light shone. His aura rose again, and he was like a demon. Suddenly, Chun-Yu's expression turned serious, and his body moved slightly to the side. Immediately, 11 identical afterimages appeared in front of him, and the starry light flickered. The enormous pressure made it seem as if 12 Chun-Yus were standing at the same time. Star-splitting 12 slashes. Meng Sun's eyes flickered. Qin Feng had used this move before, but it paled in comparison to Chun-Yu's. He had already done his best. A 5th-level origin ancestor was too powerful, and he could already be considered a monster to be able to force Chun-Yu to this extent. Kid, you're not bad, but it's a pity that you're going against me. The 12 figures were like star gods, and cold rays of light shot out from their eyes. They spoke in unison, and it was like the sound of heaven reverberating. Chapter 1465. You're not bad either. The corner of Su-Yi's mouth curled up as an undetectable seriousness flashed across his face. Su-Yi held the heavenly star soul essence in his hand and urged the origin supreme art in his body with all his strength. Suddenly, divine light surged around his body, and the corners of his clothes fluttered. He was like an ancient god, and a sharp light shot out of his eyes. The true strength of a 5th-level origin ancestor had exceeded Su-Yi's imagination. If it wasn't for the cosmic soul and the star energy that he had refined earlier, he would have been defeated by that move. Chun-Yu looked at Su-Yi with disdain and said in a deep voice, "Unfortunately, you've entered the Calamity Sea and met me. You let me meet you, kid. Accept your fate." Boom! Starlight burst out from Chun Yu's body as he raised the long sword in his right hand to the sky and shouted. Swish! The long swords of the 12 illusory, true bodies were like light pillars as the 12 extremely sharp, sword-chi light pillars pierced into the dark clouds. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as the wind and thunder clashed. Countless electric arcs circled around the 12 light pillars as the dazzling light pillars connected into one. A dazzling giant sword light appeared in the sky. A destructive aura spread out as if heaven and earth were falling apart. Thunder rumbled within the dark clouds as the entire sky became as bright as day. A strange aura spread out from Chun Yu's body. Almost at the same time, the space above the sky began to tremble as an extremely dangerous feeling surged up and started to spread in the sky. Oh no, Chun Yu is using his full strength. He actually used the star-splitting 12 slashes to this extent. Tang Wang struggled to get up. Just as he was about to step forward to help, he saw Su Yi's cold expression. White light surged around his body as he was bathed in fire. The fire attribute energy exploded like a fireball. In the sky, a faint dragon's roar resounded. Su Yi's elbows and knees had faint dragon patterns coiling around them. This is a dragon's breath. Tang Wang was shocked. Su Yi had too many mysteries. He was dumbfounded and forgot to step forward for a moment. That kid is very mysterious. Who knows? He might be able to take Chun Yu down. Meng Sun also surged his energy. After a period of recovery, half of his injuries had recovered. He patted Tang Wang and looked at the Green Emperor and the 4 beasts. The person who could subdue these guys might be able to create a miracle. He softly comforted Tang Wang to quickly recover. Bang! In the next instant, a fiery red light streaked across the sky. Su Yi's Origin Supreme technique was circulated to the extreme. The Divine Bird Shadow and Golden Dragon's aura were all activated. Even the Heaven Origin Demon Soul in his body was as hot as the sun. Brother, let's go. Su's blade. The incomparably sharp blade glinted with a cold light. Su Yi waved it in the air and broke Chun Yu's seal. The man and the blade were like the god of death. The determination in his eyes was like a cold light. An aura that could suppress all things made people's hearts palpitate. Accompanied by the astral wind, it suddenly spread throughout the entire hidden Yuan Island. Everyone felt an absolute palpitation. Go to hell. Chun Yu saw that Su Yi was not afraid. Instead, his aura became more violent. He was shocked and angry. His face became more and more sad. He hated Su Yi to the core. Bang! A monstrous beam of light poured down from the dark clouds like a bolt of lightning. The silver starlight in the sky instantly expanded, and then turned into a huge starry sword light that was hundreds of meters long. 12 figures appeared and shouted at the same time. Star-splitting slash. Kill! Suddenly, when the sword light was condensed to the extreme, it scattered into 12 sword lights and rushed straight in the direction of Su Yi. The whole space suddenly turned dark gray like rolling thunderclouds. As if passing through the soul, the sword lights intertwined into a chain and cut through the space, suddenly setting off ripples in the space. Whoosh whoosh! The sword lights and a monstrous beam of light continued to bombard the whole hidden Yuan Island. The whole hidden Yuan Island was filled with the sonorous sound of thunder and the sound of sonic booms that cut through the space. Wherever the thunder sword light passed, the space also collapsed. In an instant, Su Yi operated the Origin Supreme technique. Dozens of thunder visible to the naked eye constantly blocked Su Yi's path. Like a giant python, the majestic and overbearing aura of destruction smashed the boulders of the entire hidden Yuan Island into pieces. Swish! Under Su Yi's perception, the demon god battlesuit tightly wrapped Su Yi. The armor glowing with demon aura rose and mysterious runes surged. In the air, it was like a god of war shuttling through the monstrous sword lights. That kid, Tang Wang saw that Su Yi also had the same magical battle suit. He couldn't help but be surprised. How many treasures was this kid hiding? Thump thump. The sword lights kept surging, and the monstrous power smashed the mountain behind him into a huge pit. It was a ghastly sight. Everyone present held their breaths. No one had expected such an outcome. Su Yi was actually able to fight so many rounds with an absolute powerhouse at the 5th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm. Su Yi held the heavenly astral soul essence tightly in his hand. At the same time, his mind was spinning rapidly. The pressure of the 5th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm was like a mountain pressing down on his heart. Even if he possessed a saint weapon that could match an Origin Ancestor Realm expert, it was still too strenuous to fight with an Origin Ancestor Realm expert. Bang! As his mind was spinning, an extremely vast star force hit Su Yi directly. Instantly, Su Yi was smashed into the hidden Yuan Hall behind him like a cannonball. His mind was greatly shaken. The simple and unadorned hidden Yuan Hall was located in an ancient world. The building was extremely sturdy, and only a shallow mark was left on it. Su Yi, the crowd behind him shouted. There was no doubt that Su Yi was their only hope now. His every move affected everyone's hearts. Ling Qianxue shouted anxiously. Inside the Heaven Origin Demon Soul, Ling Qianxue's beautiful brows were tightly knitted. Her eyes were filled with concern. Immediately, Su Yi felt an extremely powerful pressure on his soul. The Heaven Origin Demon Soul immediately shone brightly. He silently recited the art of controlling the heavens in his heart. After a few breaths, the fear in his heart was swept away. The sword radiance that struck Su Yi's body earlier was filled with the power of the stars. The saber spirit in Su Yi's hand was like a glutton that continuously absorbed the power of the stars around Su Yi. The remaining power of the stars was also rapidly converted into the endless spiritual power of the great void ocean under the circulation of Su Yi's Origin Supreme technique. Su Yi, who was smashed, immediately felt the blood in his body churning like seawater. A mountain-like pressure crushed Su Yi's body, causing Su Yi to almost be unable to breathe. However, other than the shallow mark left on his body by the heavy blow, he did not feel any other discomfort. Instead, the great void ocean was even more abundant. The changes in the saber spirit in his hand and the absorption and conversion in his body made Su Yi's mind flash with lightning. Qila, on the demon god battlesuit that was surrounded by mysterious patterns. The patterns that resembled dragon scales and turtle shells gradually cracked. Su Yi's eyes darkened. Fortunately, I have the demon god battlesuit and the diamond body that I cultivate. Otherwise, I really don't know if I can withstand it. Chapter 1466. Su Yi's movements did not slow down at all as he slowly stood up from the roof. He clenched his teeth and looked at Chunyu, who was smiling evilly in the distance. The blazing aura on his body surged out like a rising flame. Immediately, the entire sky above Hidden Yuan Island became extremely dense. The strength of a 5th-level Origin Ancestor is too abnormal. I can't fight head-on. Even a heavy blow from the other party would be very strenuous for me, let alone a soul attack. Su Yi thought to himself. Not far away, Chunyu's wave-like soul pressure surged towards Su Yi again. When he saw Su Yi slowly stand up, Chunyu's face became even gloomier. Yes, a soul attack. Su Yi had a flash of lightning in his mind as a countermeasure surged into his mind. Su Yi's soul talent that surpassed the heavenly grade was definitely his biggest advantage in terms of cultivation strength and physical strength. Even if he was only at the Origin Ancestor realm, he was absolutely confident that he could compete with him. Suddenly, Su Yi's lips curled into an evil smile as he thought to himself, Chun Yao, I'm afraid that your 9 Stars Valley has suffered a double loss this time. Soul attacks are very strong, right? Old man, I'll show you mine. Su Yi stood in the wind as a trace of craftiness flashed in his eyes. Chen Yu saw that his Star Splitter Slash had been dodged by Su Yi, and that the Star Splitter Slash that had hit Su Yi did not have much effect. Chen Yu's face turned ashen as the cicada longsword in his hand shone brightly again. An unparalleled force swept across heaven and earth, bringing along a monstrous gale as it attacked Su Yi once again. Several extremely sharp sword rays were like steel as they drew countless spatial ripples in the entire space. Zung! The thunderous sword rays directly lifted the ground ferociously, creating countless deep ravines in the ground. Su Yi's fire elemental Yuan Qi soared and danced in the air. His body was surrounded by a mixture of pure gold and divine radiance. He was like a divine bird shuttling back and forth between the gaps of the sword radiance. The demon god armor on his body shone with a demonic pattern faintly glowing. In just a few breaths, Su Yi once again arrived in front of Chen Yu. This time, he didn't dodge, and his right hand held the heavenly star Astonishing Soul as he directly pressed forward. His figure was like a ghost, changing hundreds of times and stepping into thousands of miles of the Kuan Pong. Countless afterimages flashed continuously in the air, making it too much for the eyes to take in. Chen Yu, who was among the 12 figures, frowned in astonishment. He didn't expect that Su Yi would be unharmed after being hit by a Star Splitter Slash, and still have such a strong counterattack. The aura around his body was like an endless river. The surging power of the stars carried an endless killing intent, as if the god of death had descended to the world. A bead of sweat slowly flowed down his cheek. This was the first time an origin ancestor expert who had dominated the world for dozens of years had felt suppressed. At the same time, Su Yi also felt that Chen Yu's soul was in turmoil. A low voice came from Su Yi's afterimages that filled the sky. Old man, the pursuit of martial arts should be pursued through the right path, snatching other people's territories and meteorites. Is this for the martial arts in your heart? Shut up. It's not up to you to lecture me. You kill my disciple. All of you can go to hell. After saying that, Chen Yu's 12 figures all seemed to be real. They were translucent and moved in the void, forming a huge vortex. Boom! Roar! Within the vortex, countless electric arcs intersected. Deep in the dark clouds above, there was a dull sound that constantly rose upwards. In the blink of an eye, a 300-meter-long electric star dragon with ferocious eyes that were filled with starlight opened its bloody mouth and spat at Su Yi. In an instant, a terrifying power spread between heaven and earth. The power of the stars condensed as if it had turned into chaos. Only the electric dragon that was as bright as day appeared in the void. The power of the stars is related to the lightning attribute. Su Yi immediately felt that a power that seemed to have come from the ancient times was crashing down with the might of lightning. Su Yi frowned. Despite constantly dodging and moving, he still couldn't sense where Chen Yu's real body was. As the electric waves hit him, Su Yi's starry eyes gradually narrowed. His skin gradually started to burn. The parts of his skin that were in direct contact with the origin ancestor started to burn. There were many charred marks on his bright skin. Su Yi seemed to feel a huge pressure. The extremely realistic illusory figure made Su Yi, who had a huge difference in cultivation base, feel a terrifying pressure. Rumble. The sky began to tremble, and the air churned like boiling water. Tang Wang, Meng Sun, and the rest had already recovered. They didn't linger around Hidden Origin Hall. As they watched the electric dragon whizzing by, solemn expressions filled their faces. Is little Su going to lose? Meng Sun couldn't make up his mind. Chen Yu had raised his strength to an extreme. It was no longer something that he and Tang Wang could interfere with. No, Master won't lose, Yin Ming, Yang Ming, and the Green Emperor said with certainty. Their eyes were filled with anticipation and trust as they watched Su Yi's afterimage moving in the distance. The four divine beasts, Tang Wang, and Meng Sun all turned around to take a look, their hearts gradually calming down. They finally understood why the Overlord sect could rise so quickly, and also why Su Yi had such charisma to tame so many divine beasts. This kid is good. His ability to withstand pressure is incomparable to ours. Tang Wang murmured to himself. The dazzling electric light that filled the sky made it look like a great battle between gods and demons. This scene was seen by Shuizhong. Shuizhong, Zhuo, and Ningwu all clenched their fists and opened their mouths slightly. So, hang in there. No matter what, I will submit to you. You are someone that I, Shuizhong, approve of. You won't lose. Shuizhong's fierce eyes flashed with determination and calmness. As if he had sensed it, Su Yi's mind gradually calmed down, and he roared. I won't lose. Since he couldn't find his real body, Su Yi simply gave up. At the same time, Su Yi's words were sonorous, and a voice that resounded through the sky poured out. World-suppressing dragon soul roar. As soon as his voice fell, Su Yi's aura suddenly changed. It was as if a huge dragon that had been dormant for thousands of years had opened its huge golden eyes. A sacred and majestic spirit suddenly awakened from Su Yi's body. Roar! In an instant, the sound of a dragon's roar reverberated in all directions. It was as if it had passed through the primordial times and traversed the vast thousand realms. In the void, the shadow of a mountain peak suddenly flashed. Immediately, the whole sky was divided by golden light and electric light. It was a world of gold and silver. It was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. The lightning dragon opened its bloody mouth, and its hair was surrounded by electric arcs. The terrifying golden dragon's body appeared. Its muscles were intertwined, and its scales were dense. The two monstrous dragons raised an unparalleled, terrifying power and directly collided in the void. Bang! A huge shock wave spread in a circular shape from the collision of the two dragons. The dragon's body was vast and mighty. The unparalleled power caused the whole earth to crack, the mountains and seas to churn, and the whole hidden Yuan island was suddenly torn apart. Retreat. Chapter 1467. Tang Wang, Meng Sun, and the others were attacked by the strong wind. The power that fell from the sky made them feel an unprecedented danger. Boom, 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 boom. A series of explosions resounded through the sky. Golden light soared and flames exploded in the sky like fireworks. The island and the rocks were all turned into fine powder in an instant. Boom, 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 boom. Tang Wang and the others, who had already retreated, were still covered by the terrifying storm. The four beasts with lower cultivation bases immediately spat out mouthfuls of blood. Tang Wang and the others turned pale as their vital energy and blood surged again. TSS. The destructive explosion began to stop. The two figures in the air were like kites with their strings cut as they retreated several hundred feet. Looking at Chenyu again, his chest had caved in at a terrifying angle. His entire body was bent like a prawn. Su Yi was also panting heavily. His aura was dispirited, and his body was covered with charred wounds from the lightning strikes. Qila, Chenyu's starlight armor, and Su Yi's demon god battle armor were torn apart inch by inch from the violent impact. They turned into countless origin chi light spots that danced in the air. The strong wind blew, and Su Yi's clothes were already in tatters. The heavenly star shocking soul in his hand. At this moment, the power of the stars within the hilt was also about to dry up. Su Yi, are you all right? Ling Qinxue asked with concern. I'm fine. With the demon god battle armor and the cosmic saber spirit, I barely managed to hold on. He might not be much better than me. Su Yi smirked as he looked at Chenyu, whose face was extremely distorted. At this moment, Chenyu's aura was extremely dispirited. He could not allow a 5th-level origin ancestor to be defeated by a 9th-level origin void stage youth. How could this be? It must be left behind by the forefather. It must be left behind by the forefather. Ah! Chenyu roared crazily in the air. His body was surrounded by faint golden dragon runes as he hugged his head and cried. He could never imagine that the cultivation that he had been obsessed with all his life couldn't compare to Su Yi's 20 years of cultivation. In the sky, The dragon roars continued for a long time. Ling Qianxue was puzzled in the heavenly origin demon soul. The rock-suppressing dragon's soul chant is the dragon clan's strongest technique. Even if he is a Yuan zone, he will not be able to escape from the golden dragon's soul suppression. Su Yi's footsteps were unsteady. He had just used all his strength to execute the soul martial skill and was swaying in the air. Following which, he muttered the words, Imperial Heaven Art. His obsession is too deep. Due to the influence of the demonic sword Dao, if his soul is suppressed, his mind and soul will be severely affected. Su Yi continued. In the distance, the sky was still in a state of chaos. Chunyu was like a wind demon, constantly slapping out starry palms in the air, shouting at the heavens. Why? Why am I still unable to withstand a single blow after decades of bitter training? Chunyu pushed and retracted his unparalleled origin ancestor palm energy towards the dark clouds in the sky. Boom! Countless bolts of lightning and thunder descended like heavenly punishment. Light soared into the sky, and the world rumbled. This is my chance. Su Yi frowned. When the origin chi in the great void ocean was circulated to its maximum, he leaped up and arrived in front of Chunyu. Then, he executed the origin supreme technique on Chunyu like a ghost. Whoosh! The saber spirit also swayed in an instant. Its aura soared as if it had seen a source of energy, and it frantically absorbed the starry energy in Chunyu's body. Chunyu's mind and soul were completely affected. His starry energy was like a sluice gate that was flooded with water, constantly gushing towards Su Yi and the cosmic saber spirit. Su Yi shook his head and said helplessly, Why are there so many foodies around me? Handsome Su Tianke, and you're all people who can't get enough of it. Then, he also started to absorb Chun Yu's starry energy. The great void ocean in his body was constantly filled with starry energy. The Origin Supreme technique circulated rapidly, transforming the starry energy into endless spiritual energy. In the blink of an eye, Chun Yu's aura began to weaken. His origin ancestor realm spiritual energy was directly transferred to the saber spirit and Su Yi's body like a river. Suddenly, Su Yi's aura began to shake. A huge roar caused thunder to fall, the wind to surge, and the earth to crack. The entire hidden Yuan island began to shake. Countless savage beasts in the forest began to flee, as if the end of the world had arrived. What's wrong? Why does Su Yi suddenly have such a powerful aura? Bang! What outsiders couldn't see was that in Su Yi's divine spiritual meridians, the first hidden gate near the deity ocean shone brightly and was successfully opened. Su Yi, who was concentrating on refining, couldn't help but be stunned. Origin Ancestor Realm spiritual energy can open the first hidden gate directly? Bang! As soon as he opened the mortal gate, the aura around Su Yi's body suddenly surged with a boundless ferocious aura, as if an ancient ferocious beast had awoken. Su Yi immediately opened his eyes and stared at the sky. An invisible wave of air pushed away all the dark clouds. The sky was bright, and the wind and thunder rumbled. An overbearing lightning beam directly hit Su Yi's body. Boom! Despite being struck by lightning, Su Yi didn't feel the slightest bit of discomfort. Following which, a surge of fiend god chi gushed out, tyrannical and unparalleled. Finally, Su Yi's cultivation base and aura were no longer under his control. Su Yi's entire body of the Vajra turned pure gold. His heavenly origin demon soul, his limbs, bones, and organs suddenly became crystal clear. The unparalleled Great Void Divine sea surged with huge waves. The vital chi that was like seawater all came from Chunyu. The knife spirit also seemed to be agitated. Its aura kept churning. Half-step origin emperor, tisk tisk. The increasingly vigorous aura was as vast as the abyss. With a crisp sound, the entire origin void realm's bottleneck suddenly broke through. It was extremely natural, and there was no difficulty or breakthrough. After breaking through, Su he still didn't stop absorbing the power of Chen Yu's stars. His aura kept surging. Boom! The entire great void ocean was surging in his body like overflowing seawater. Su Yi, who was enduring the monstrous pressure, gritted his teeth and raised his arm. Break for me. Thump. Thump. Su Yi's heart of heavenly sun was beating rapidly. The jade-like fiery red heart steadily withstood the overflowing energy of heaven and earth. Diamond body, Yuanyang sky dragon bone, great void ocean. The entire mixed Yuan demon body gave off the brightest light as it withstood the impact of the surging energy. Second level origin Emperor realm. Bang! The powerful pressure spread across heaven and earth. Su Yi was still under the infusion of energy. After a long time, Su Yi was finally stabilized by the overflowing energy of heaven and earth. Chen Yu's energy was also about to dry up. Tisk tisk. When Su Yi opened his eyes, a ray of lightning shot out from his eyes. It was awe-inspiring and surged with radiance. At this moment, Su Yi's sword-like eyebrows relaxed slightly. He restrained his aura and exhaled a long breath of turbid air from his throat. The radiance wasn't as dazzling as before. Chapter 1468. The aura of thunder spread out, and the power of stars and the saber spirit was replenished once again. Su Yi's lips curled into a smile. He broke through? In the distance, the crowd, who had retreated due to the sudden lightning tribulation, broke out in cold sweat again. He broke through after fighting an origin ancestor. Tang Wang and Meng Sun looked at Su Yi in disbelief. He opened his eyes, and the aura on his body was that of a second-level origin emperor. Master! The eyes of the Green Emperor and the Yin Yang, two nether brothers, rippled as they cheered for Su Yi's rapid breakthrough. They knew that Su Yi had delayed his breakthrough for a long time in order to stabilize his foundation. He had been waiting for this day for too long. At that moment, Chen Yu had already awakened from the soul suppression of the world-suppressing dragon soul roar. His aura was extremely weak as he collapsed in the air, but his eyes had regained their clarity. Old man Shun, if you didn't have an inner demon, how could you be suppressed by me so easily? You only have yourself to blame for this. Su Yi restrained his aura as he held the saber spirit in his hand. His eyes were filled with coldness as the tip of the saber was pressed against Chen Yu's throat. What do you think the 9-star old ancestor left for me? Su Yi said softly in disdain. He was repenting until the very last moment. Without righteousness, your so-called righteousness is just an illusion. Chen Yu hugged his head with both hands as he looked at the empty spiritual power in his body. His cultivation was no longer at the 5th-level origin ancestor, and his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Bullshit. Su Yi, it's all your fault. You destroyed me. Su Yi frowned as he looked at Chen Yu. Chen Yu's hair danced in the wind as he rolled on the ground like a demon. The current Chen Yu could be defeated by Su Yi in 3 moves if he was full of energy. Those who bully the Bawang sect will be killed without mercy. Su Yi shot out a cold light as he raised the starry sky soul in his hand high up. Boom! Above the island in the distance, a streak of starlight filled the sky, making the clear sky extremely beautiful. The exit enchantment of Thunder Sealing Valley is about to open. Tang Wang clearly recognized that it was time to leave the valley. Everyone had to leave Thunder Sealing Valley. So, seeing that Chen Yu couldn't cause any more trouble, Su Yi flashed to Tang Wang's side and said to Tang Wang, "Is everyone all right?" Tang Wang and Meng Sun nodded. The 4 beasts also looked at him with reverence. The Green Emperor said, "Master, Thunder Seal Valley is about to close. We won't be able to make it to the valley entrance in time. What should we do?" Su Yi pondered for a moment, but he didn't see anyone else. He asked softly, "Muyang, where are the others?" Tang Wang immediately laughed and said, "Master Su, don't worry. I came to Hidden Yuan Island halfway. Seeing that there wasn't much time left, I asked Xian Shuang to take Mu Yang and Miss Shi away first." After Tang Wang finished speaking, Meng Sun also said, "In order to save you, Mishra specially went out to invite Xian Shuang and me into the valley. Wei Hong used her leaving the valley as a condition, so you can rest assured. Unfortunately, there aren't many monsters left on the 3 islands. The rest left with Xian Shuang." After that, Meng Sun sighed deeply. He looked at Su Yi with a trace of guilt in his eyes. "Previously, I only wanted to bring my pro-disciples in to seek opportunities. Unexpectedly, I almost fell into the trap of Nangong. If I offended you in any way, please forgive me." Meng Sun slightly cupped his fists. Tang Wang on the side was amazed. "Elder Meng, what are you talking about? This time we fought side by side. We risked our lives for the Bawang sect several times. I was originally a disciple of the Xinjiang Gate. The 9 Stars Valley and the Qingyan sect have such a relationship. If you have any instructions in the future, the Bawang sect will not refuse." Su Yi smiled with sincerity in his eyes. Rumble. In the distant horizon, the starlight gradually disappeared. The whole hidden Yuan island became extremely gloomy, as if it was about to fall into endless darkness. Su Yi looked at the gloomy world. His eyes narrowed and he said, "Elder Meng, Elder Tang, now we'd better think about how to get out of here." Suddenly, a strange, evil laughter came from the horizon behind them. Chunyu slowly climbed up from the ground. His body was stooped, his chest caved in, and his eyes were sunken. He looked like a ghost. "Don't even think about leaving. You destroyed me, so I'll destroy you all." Chunyu's gloomy and strange laughter was extremely terrifying. His face was ferocious as he roared. Boom! The whole sky changed color. Unparalleled lightning fell from the sky as if it came from the 9 heavens. As Chunyu's feet stomped on the void, an unparalleled aura continuously struck from all directions. Bang! The lightning crushed the whole hidden Yuan island with a destructive speed. The earth shook and the sky and earth shook. The spiritual birds, flowers, and plants all turned into black ashes under the attack of the lightning and scattered in the sky. Dense abyssal cracks spread on the ground, and no trace of the sea of clouds could be seen. Bang! In an instant, the monstrous strength made Tang Wang and the others fearful. Tang Wang's face sank, and he said softly, "Oh no, his meridians have been destroyed, and the spiritual energy of the entire Sea of Calamity has collapsed. The Sea of Calamity is about to collapse. This abominable human, does he want to bury us all here?" Shuezhong shouted angrily. His bulging muscles were about to rush up. He held them tightly and looked back at Xinyu. He had already fallen from the sky and was fluttering in the wind like a ragged sack. A cry of despair that seemed to come from the depths of hell echoed in the sky. "Go to hell! Ha ha ha! I'm an invincible 9-star!" Bang! Thunder rumbled in the 9 heavens, and shadows filled the sky. With an earth-shattering explosion, a violent strength spread in the sky. In the explosion, it smashed on hidden Yuan Island like a heavenly punishment. The island, which was originally a dangerous place, suddenly turned into a raging sea of fire. A blazing aura filled the air, and the space became extremely distorted. Bang! The vigorous energy of heaven and earth, accompanied by unparalleled lightning, directly hit Chunyu, who was floating in the air. Su Yi's eyes trembled. The thin and small Chunyu was directly hit by the lightning and turned into starlight, dissipating like a hurricane. The first-generation Yuan ancestor has left. He shook his head slightly. Everyone's eyes became a little sluggish because of Chun Yu's disappearance. Turning his mind, He looked at the 9 stars calamity sea that had turned into a purgatory and asked Shuezhong anxiously, "Is everything arranged properly? Is there nothing left?" Shuezhong nodded solemnly and took out a space bag in his hand and said, "The 3 middle islands have been emptied. The rest of the people have also left. There's no need to stay here. Yi, do you have a way to take us out?" After listening to Shuezhong's words, Yi pondered for a while and then took out a rune stone from his pocket and handed it to Tang Wang. When the rune stone was in his hand, Tang Wang felt a warm feeling spread throughout his body. His limbs and bones were extremely soft. The rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth slowly soaked into his flesh and soul. Chapter 1469. Immediately, the sky above hidden Yuan Island shook and thunder rumbled. Lightning intertwined in the sky like divine light. Tang Wang said in surprise, "Sect Master Su, this is a space-cracking jade." Su Yi nodded softly and said, "That's right. Elder Tang, I wonder if this can lead everyone out of Thunder Valley directly?" Tang Wang took the space-cracking jade from Su Yi's hand and looked at it carefully. He had only seen a few space-cracking jades in his life, so he was a little startled. He quickly recovered and replied to Su Yi, Yes. It's rumored that the space-cracking jade contains the energy of 100 seven-star vitality stones from the Yuqian Palace. It has its own rules, and with the special energy rules set by the Yuqian Palace, it resonates with the space and can directly tear the void and carry out space transfer. Such a huge amount of energy can certainly lead everyone out smoothly. Sect Master Su, please give me some time to study it. The Origin Ancestor Realm's understanding of space rules had reached a whole new level. The space-cracking jade was a jade that stored energy, just like the star token, so it was only a matter of time for the Origin Ancestor Realm experts to open it. It was not a very difficult thing. Boom! Suddenly, the 9 islands in the Calamity Sea began to shake violently again like an earthquake. The cracks on the solid island's ground became bigger and bigger, like a trench. The sea of clouds inside was surging, but it was like a sea of fire and hell. It was breathtaking. Su Yi, Meng Sun, and the others saw the changes in the sky as if the end of the world was coming. Their faces were pale and dignified as they spoke to Tang Wang. Elder Tang, if that's the case, please find a way as soon as possible so that we can use the space-cracking jade to get out. Tang Wang said softly, Okay. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Wang immediately brought Meng Sun, who was also in shock, to the side and quickly studied the way to use the space-cracking jade. This kid is too strange. It's a space-cracking jade. How many times have we met in our lives? He actually has the space-cracking jade. Meng Sun muttered softly, looking at Su Yi from time to time. Haha, I knew that kid Su was the cloud dragon of heaven. He has broken our expectations again and again. We don't have much time. Let's see how we can open it first. Tang Wang didn't say anything else. He transformed the ancient energy of the power of the stars into a martial artist's origin chi and poured it into the space-rending jade. The space-rending jade immediately emitted a sparkling light. The two of them huddled together, talking one after another as they continued to study. With such a huge amount of energy, even if one were to obtain it, one would need to have sufficient cultivation to be able to use it freely. After obtaining the space-cracking jade from Ing Wuxiu, Su Yi had tried to activate it, but to no avail. Under such circumstances, Su Yi took out the space-cracking jade. Seeing that Tang Wang was slightly effective, Su Yi couldn't help but feel happy. Sure enough, it's still a problem with cultivation. Su Yi thought so. Just then, Ling Qinshue's voice sounded in his mind. This time, you were able to defeat Qinyu. On one hand, Chunyu was affected by the demonic sword principle. On the other hand, the soul attack of your world suppressing Dragon Soul Roar was too powerful. That's why you had the chance to kill an Origin Grandmaster. If it weren't for the Heavenly Star Essence and your super strong physical strength, I'm afraid you wouldn't have been able to last 3 rounds against that old man. Ling Qinshu said to Su Yi with lingering fear. Yes, my cultivation is still far from enough. Compared to Elder Tang and the others' absolute strength, I'm still too weak. After we get out, I have to raise my cultivation as soon as possible. Su Yi said in a low voice. Right now, with the Heavenly Star Essence and super strong strength, he was invincible among his peers. He was even invincible among the Origin Emperors. However, other than his soul attack, he was simply a piece of trash when it came to martial arts without any external assistance. Of course, Su Yi was only considered a piece of trash when it came to the strong enemies that Su Yi was facing. If he were to face a real expert, such as Shenghua, or even an expert of a higher level, Would he be able to win just by relying on external forces? Su Yi, use your armor and weapon properly. Don't let them become an obstacle to your cultivation. Ling Qinshu said with concern. Hearing that, Su Yi quickly withdrew the saber spirit's consciousness from his hand. He looked at the gray sky and raised his eyebrows. Su Yi immediately thought of himself in the savage demon forest. In order to train his ability, he had carried that worn-out sword on his back every day. Su Yi chuckled softly. Yes, it's time for me to return to my original self and put down everything to work hard in cultivation. Su Yi said softly as he looked inside himself and felt the armor and saber spirit flickering in his body. You guys stay here first. One day, I'll let you guys have a place to use your abilities. After saying that, Su Yi's eyes flashed with coldness. That day would be the day that he would flatten Sacred Mountain. Sacred Mountain, Wang Chuanda, Shanghua, those people who had almost killed him. Su Yi would never forget them for the rest of his life. Thinking of that, a beautiful figure once again appeared in Su Yi's mind. It was Lu Ruoshi. The clear sound of someone vomiting blood broke Su Yi's train of thought. Looking back, he saw the Green Emperor, Shuizhong, and the others who were already seriously injured. Their blood was surging, and their faces were pale. After experiencing the impact of the battle between Chunyu and Su Yi, the world was shaking, and the laws of space were changing. The spiritual energy in the void caused the rising demonic light to dim. Shuizhong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked around at the ruins of the Robbery Sea Islands. He sighed in his heart. Zhuorou and Yingwu's eyes were also filled with reluctance. Zhuorou walked to Shuizhong's side and patted him. At least we're free, right? The Sky Desire clan is finally free. The primogenitor won't blame us. The sky is high and the earth is far away. We'll accompany you to spread your might across the world. Hearing Shuizhong's words, Su Yi walked forward and stood with his hand behind his back. His thoughts of inviting them to join the Bawang sect were blocked. Su Yi originally wanted to say, if you don't have a place to go, the Bawang sect will always be open to you. But after thinking about it, Su Yi decided not to say it for now. Spreading his might across the world and reaching the peak of martial arts was Su Yi's dream. It definitely wouldn't stop Shuizhong, who also had the same dream. To the three demons, the 9 stars calamity, sea was a place they were born in. This was the first time they left their destroyed home and ventured out. The unknown, confusion, helplessness, and sadness were all stuck in their chests. Spreading his name to the Sky Desire clan was something Shuizhong had always wanted to do. If there was another choice, it wouldn't be a good thing for the three demons. Seeing Tang Wang still trying to figure out how to open the space-rending jade, the Green Emperor and the Yin-Yang Two Nether accompanied Su Yi to the edge of the island and silently waited for the space-rending jade to open. This time, the 9 stars calamity sea's harvest was huge. The source of all of this was the immemorial calamity. After the immemorial calamity, the space of the 9 spirits' heavenly cat clan changed, and they were invaded by foreign enemies. The Sky Desire clan was also affected by the calamity. Meteors fell from the sky, and the calamity sea formed. Chapter 1470. The battle for territory between the 9-Star Valley and the 9 Spirit Links turned into a bitter history for the three demons. Years of slavery finally changed with the arrival of Su, Yi, and the rest. After that, the Starry Sky Soul returned to where it first started. Both of them absorbed the ancient energy of the stars. The Starry Sky Soul was awakened while Lin Huang activated his divine black spiritual meridians and had a breakthrough in his cultivation. Su Yi was amazed by all of this. The Golden Dragon, the Rock, the Phoenix, the Lynx, and even the Sky Desire tribe were related to the mysterious Archean disaster. Su Tianke and Ling Lanin have also gone to a faraway place for the Archean disaster. Su Yi mumbled as he looked from afar. In his mind, the heavenly origin demon soul had undergone a breakthrough in cultivation. At this moment, it was still shining brightly like the sun. Ling Qinshu knew what Su Yi was thinking and said, Su Yi, You are a person with great luck. When they return, you'll definitely become a powerhouse in this world. A powerhouse. Su Yi's eyes were filled with pride as he said, "That's right. Before they return, I'll definitely become a powerhouse. I want to be on par with them. I'll become the one and only existence in this world." The sea of clouds rumbled as thunder and lightning flashed. Su Yi's eyes seemed to be burning with flames as his clothes fluttered. He looked like a young god of war. Heaven and earth rumbled as the star flag and the electric halberd flew in the sky again. Su Yi could feel the spiritual power in the entire Calamity Ocean getting thinner and thinner in the wind. Soon, the Calamity Ocean would collapse. Suddenly, Tang Wang's surprised voice came from behind him. Tang Wang waved at Su Yi and shouted, "Sect Leader Su, let's go. The dimension is collapsing and the tear might be affected by this place. We won't be able to fly far. Everyone, please be prepared for the teleportation." Su Yi frowned when he heard that. He immediately walked forward with the Green Emperor and the rest. There was still more than half of the rope that was set up when they entered the Thunder Ceiling Valley. After everything was ready, Su Yi said to everyone, "All right, let's go." Suddenly, the space-cracking jade in Tang Wang's hand flashed with an incomparably thick power. Amidst the rapid electric light, a ray of light suddenly rose from the space-cracking jade and streaked across an incomparably huge crack in the sky. The deep crevice was accompanied by an incomparably dazzling energy wave. Immediately, the spiritual energy between heaven and earth seemed to have found a vent and rapidly surged into the crevice. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Heaven and earth trembled as the firmament shattered. Endless thunderbolts, accompanied by dark clouds, surged into the fissure continuously. Booming sounds of explosions resounded in the void. Let's go. The spatial laws of the Sea of Calamity have changed. Everything has been swallowed up by the spatial cracks. When Tang Wang saw this strange phenomenon of the crack, he immediately exclaimed. The Calamity Sea had existed in the world for countless years. Once it collapsed, it actually had such a huge impact on the newly formed spatial crack. Su Yi's starry eyes flashed coldly. The primordial chi under his feet surged, and he pulled the rope tightly. He said loudly, "Let's go. I've already passed through the Sea of Calamity, so this change is nothing." Chila. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Yi turned into a ball of divine fire amidst the thunderbolts. The shadow behind him was like a divine bird descending to the world. Together with Tang Wang and Meng Sun, he led the Green Emperor and the rest into the spatial crack. As soon as they entered the spatial rift, countless arcs of lightning shot towards Su Yi and the others like weaving weaves. Bang bang! An incomparably resplendent thunderbolt surged out from the depths of the crack and hit Su Yi and the rest squarely. Bang! The demon god battlesuit was attached to his body again. Su Yi's body trembled violently. His vision turned black, and he immediately fell into endless darkness. Su Yi, Sect Master Su, Ling Qianxue and Tang Wang's voices, one from inside and one from outside, shouted at Su Yi. The thunderbolts in the sky struck like a mountain. The spatial laws were extremely complicated. Suddenly, everyone's mind seemed to be suppressed, and they gradually lost consciousness. In front of the Thunder Ceiling Valley, Elder Nye saw that the time was up. He walked toward the entrance of the valley. Yellow sand filled the sky, and the sky was filled with desolate killing intent. Who do you think will get the opportunity this time? The expert from the Dark Een sect smiled evilly as he stared at the entrance of the valley. This is the territory of the Nine Stars Valley. You still want to reap the benefits? Don't even think about it. Another disciple from the Green Flame sect said loudly. The expert from the Dark Een sect said, "Yes. Anyway, the one who will get the opportunity will definitely not be your sect." The two sides were at each other's throats, and they quarreled fiercely again. Looking at the sect from afar, Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy's eyes were cold. They looked at the Thunder Ceiling Valley with concern. I wonder how that kid is doing. The Nine Stars Valley is definitely not a good place. Merciless West said softly. Impermanence Fairy thought for a while and then relaxed her brows. She said to Merciless West, "He will be fine. I am worried about the people who went in with him. I am afraid that they will be in trouble again." Merciless West immediately shook her head. She thought of Su Yi's temper and behavior. Impermanence Fairy was right. It was better to worry about the other sex. Boom! Eldanya looked at the sky from time to time. Air waves rolled around him, and his hair and robe fluttered in the wind. He was like a withered tree when he heard the guard at the entrance of the valley. A loud sound resounded through the heavens and earth. A light ball covered with star patterns rose from both of Eldernya's hands. It floated above his palms and kept rotating. At this moment, Eldernya pushed both of his hands forward. Between pushing and retracting, the two balls of light turned into two streams of light in the air. It was the fallen spirit drill from the 6th layer of the 9-star secret technique Stellar Record. With a thunderous momentum, it blasted into the light screen at the entrance of the valley. Boom! In front of the entrance of the valley, the light ball hit the light screen with boundless momentum. It carried the power to destroy the heavens and earth. It set off an overbearing fluctuation in the air and caused ripples in the surrounding space. The aftershock of the attack gradually disappeared. The area in front of the sealed Thunder Valley was covered by yellow sand. The ground and air were the same color. As far as the eye could see, everyone except the person next to them could not see anyone else. The only thing that could be seen was the faint light emitted from the entrance of the valley. It was shining brightly in the yellow sand. Similar to when they entered the valley, the light screen began to spread to both sides, forming a jujube-shaped crack. Electric arcs ran rapidly and crackled. Someone is coming out. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the small crack at the entrance of the valley, waiting to see who would reappear. The dense light seemed unreal in the yellow sand. Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy used their spiritual energy to sense it. They frowned slightly. Please remember the domain name of this book.com, wonderful book mobile version website.com. Chapter 1471. A handsome man flew out from the crack like an arrow, followed by a beautiful woman. Behind them were the experts from the Shadowless Palace and the Purple Shadow Tower. When they saw who it was, everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Shan Wangchen. It's Shan Wangchen. And Purple Shadow Towers, Shui Yuchan. How could it be them? Everyone exclaimed. The two successfully got out of the valley, saw everyone's expectant gazes, and were slightly surprised. However, judging from their Yuan Qi cultivation, the two were full of energy and didn't look like they had gone through a tough battle. From the looks of their souls, they're even more stable. It seems like the Golden Dragon has completely recovered. Merciless West said in a deep voice. Shang Wanchen and Shui Yuchan passed through the crowd and came to Merciless West, bowing deeply to the two. Young Master Shang, have you seen Su Yi? Merciless West immediately asked. We have seen him in the vast star plain, but it was a hurried meeting. Young Master Su went deeper into the secret place to look for opportunities. Yuchan, and I didn't go too deep. Merciless West pondered for a moment. Then his brows relaxed a little. Congratulations to the two of you. If you have time, please come to the Bawang sect for a gathering. Shang Wangchen and Shui Yuchan smiled and slowly retreated to the back. I didn't expect them to come out first, Sai. Look, someone else came out. Someone in the crowd pointed at the entrance of the valley, causing another commotion. Xian Shuang, Wei Hong, Shi Su Su, Situ Muyang, and the others walked out together with the elders of the Green Flame sect. All of them were covered in dust and looked exhausted. After a while, no one else came out. Darking Gates, Si Kong Shang also came out with them. His face was as cold as the winter frost. Merciless West could feel that his injuries were the most serious among all of them. He walked to the Darking Gates group and stared at Elder Nya with cold eyes. However, Elder Nya acted as if he didn't see it and continued to look at the situation inside the Thunder Sealing Valley. Xian Shuang and Wei Hong walked out of the crack in the Thunder Seal. They glared at Elder Nya with their fiery eyes, snorting. Elder Xian Shuang, Elder Wei, what's the situation inside? Elder Nya asked softly. Xian Shuang took Wei Hong and the others directly to Merciless West. Sitamuyang was anxious. He told Merciless West everything that happened. What? How could there be such a situation? Merciless West's killing intent suddenly overflowed. It turned out that all of this was a conspiracy of the Nine-Star Valley. Sure, this time, the Nine Stars Valley has made such a big move. As expected, they are harboring evil intentions. Impermanence Fairy frowned and crossed her arms. A cold aura was emitted from her. Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy had already made preparations. If Sue was really harmed by the Nine Stars Valley, they would definitely fight with their lives. Of course, this kind of situation was very unlikely. Sitamuyang kept looking inside. However, after waiting for a long time, he still didn't see Sue and Elder Tang Wang. The people who had already come out had already retreated to the side. This time, the Blue Cloud Palace didn't obtain any benefits. However, they didn't suffer too much damage either. This was already very fortunate. Brother Wuqing, take good care of these space bags. Sect Master Su asked Elder Xin Shuang to give them to you. Wei Hong walked closer and mysteriously handed over a few space bags. Shi Wuqing used his spiritual power to check. He opened his mouth slightly and found that there were more than a dozen savage beasts inside. Their cultivation levels weren't low. He immediately regained his usual expression and nodded to Wei Hong. Then he said to Sita Muyang, Muyang, don't be impatient. Little Su is very lucky. Moreover, Tang Wang's cultivation is not bad. He has a high prestige in the valley. He should be fine. Merciless West comforted Situ Muyang softly and signaled him to wait and see. Slowly, time passed like flowing water. The crack in Thunder Seal Valley didn't move for a long time. As the spirit force weakened, the crack continued to shrink. The Darking Gate was still bitterly waiting for Wu Fong and Elder Lu, who were in Thunder Seal Valley. Xikong Shang pretended to be calm. The internal strife inside couldn't be known to outsiders. On the other side, the elders of the Green Flame sect had already come out and told their disciples about the situation inside. Other than glaring at each other, everyone was anxiously waiting for Elder Meng's son. Figures moved, and voices were like boiling water. This time, the Nine Stars Valley scheme should have been flawless. However, in the end, so many people were able to smoothly leave the valley. This was really beyond Elder Nie's expectations. Strange. Where's Nangong? Elder Nie muttered softly. Looking at the crack that was about to close, Elder Nie's sweat gradually flowed down. Could it be that the Nine Stars Valley team had all died? The time limit was up, so Elder Nie could only speak to everyone. Everyone, the time for seclusion in Thunder Seal Valley is up. Please return to your courtyard to rest. I will send everyone out of the valley tomorrow morning. At this time, Xikong Shang finally couldn't help but point at Elder Nie and speak. Elder Nie, aren't you going to give everyone an explanation? So many people from my Darkeen sect and Green Flame sect haven't come out yet. Elder Meng's son is also inside. You want to close Thunder Seal Valley? That's right. My Elder Meng son hasn't come out yet. Who allowed you to close the valley? Green Flame sect and Darkeen sect's voices shook the heavens and earth. However, Blue Cloud Palace and Bawang sect already knew what was going on. They coldly watched the situation change. That's right. He hasn't come out yet. Why should we close the valley? Shirsusu's fragrant sweat flowed down. Her soft voice became louder and louder. Shirsusu continuously looked at the situation at the valley entrance. She couldn't help but walk to Bawang's sect's side. She tightly bit her cherry lips and was extremely nervous. Blue Cloud Palace had suffered a loss this time. As the #1 power in the Chaos Realm, it couldn't be mixed in with a group of second-rate powers. However, this debt could be seen from the faces of everyone from Blue Cloud Palace. They would remember it. Senior Wuqing, what should we do? Young Marshal Granduncle hasn't come out yet. Situ Muyang's expression was anxious. His handsome face was flushed red. On the other side, Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy became abnormally silent. Such a large number of casualties was definitely not a coincidence. Although Su hadn't come out, Merciless West wasn't worried. More importantly, Nangonghang hadn't come out either. Right now, the most anxious party should be Nine-Star Valley. Before entering the valley, He had told her that he was prepared and told her not to worry. At this moment, the people from Nine-Star Valley hadn't come out yet. Merciless West decided to believe in Sui. At this critical moment, he would definitely have a way to turn the situation around. Wei Hong and Bawang's sect watched the two powers challenge Nine-Star Valley. Their eyes were filled with coldness. Everyone, the crack in Thunderseal Valley has a time limit. I didn't want to close the valley. City Lord Nangong hasn't come out either. Did Nine-Star Valley say anything? Before entering the valley, the rules were set. Life and death are determined by fate. Wealth and honor are determined by the heavens. How could they not know how long we'll stay in the valley? Elder Nya cleared his throat and said loudly. Chapter 1472. As he spoke, Elder Nya's brows furrowed even more. He clenched his fists so tightly that creaking sounds could be heard. He thought to himself, Nangonghang, it's worth it to exchange your life for Su Yi's. Let everything be buried inside. It's just a pity that you let the sects kill each other and so many people escape. It seems like your plan isn't flawless after all. Sikong Shang saw that Elder Nya was still trying to shirk the responsibility. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Originally, he was the first to rush out of the vast star plane, thinking that he would be able to obtain a supreme opportunity. However, for some reason, his mind was also greatly damaged. Ever since he came out of the Sky Domain mountain range, he had been chased by Xin Shuang and the others. After entering the Calamity Sea, he was tricked by Nangonghang. When he woke up, he was carried to the entrance of Thunder Sealing Valley. He couldn't eat mutton, so he blamed all of this on the Nine Stars Valley. Sikong Shang's sarcastic voice came out of his mouth again. Elder Meng, then I want to ask you. Obviously, Nangonghang brought another person into the group of 5. Did you know about it? Hearing Sikong Shang's words, the surrounding noise instantly quieted down. Elder Nya's face twitched, and he stuttered, What do you mean? You know very well what I mean. Do you dare to say that you didn't know about it? Elder Nya's face didn't change, and his heart didn't skip a beat. He continued to speak faintly. Elder Sikong, you and I are old acquaintances. My Nine Stars Valley wouldn't go so far as to set you up. Wulsh *T. I thought I was bad enough. I didn't expect your Nine Stars Valley to be worse than me. Qin Yin's sect, your Elder Meng, didn't come out. If we don't force them to open Thunder Sealing Valley today, we won't give up. Bang! Elder Nya pushed with both hands, and a starlight ball smashed in front of everyone like a meteor. A huge hole that was several feet deep directly appeared. I said it can't be opened. Do you still want to force your way in? Yes, we will force our way in. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Sikong Shang screamed. Your Nine Stars Valley can't afford to pay for my Elder Meng's life. The Green Flame sect and the Darking Gate immediately became noisy. All kinds of martial skill lights soared into the sky and shot towards the light screen of the Thunder Sealing Valley. Bang! Elder Nya and the other warriors started a fight with the Blue Flame School and the Darking School. Merciless West and Xin Shuang exchanged looks, wanting to retreat. Let's go, Muyang, Wu Chang Fairy said with a smile in her eyes. But young Martial Granduncle, Sita Muyang, said anxiously. If Nine Star Valley could really open the Thunder Sealing Valley, then this place wouldn't be fighting. Impermanence Fairy said, Do you trust Su Yi? After pondering for a while, Situ Muyang nodded heavily and turned around, ignoring the strong wind from the fight. Bang bang. Flames filled the sky, and the flying fine sand once again drowned the entire sky. Shang Wanshun and Shui Yuachan had already left when the battle started. Xian Shuang watched for a while, and her eyes turned cold. She also left with Wei Hong. Susu, why aren't you leaving? Xian Shuang and Elder Chun Chuan looked at Shi Susu, who was still standing there, and asked softly. Shi Susu's eyes surged with moonlight, and a trace of seriousness flashed across her snow-white face. She clenched her fists, hesitated, and said softly, Impermanence Fairy slowly walked to Shi Susu and said with a smile, "Miss, sure, I understand a girl's thoughts, but you have to trust Su-yi like Mu-yang. If he says he has a way, then he will have a way. You still have a lot of things to deal with him in the future, so you have to trust him more." After hearing Shirsusu's words, her cheeks turned red like snow, and even her jade-like ears turned red. Impermanence Fairy saw this and covered her face with a smile. "Okay, go back with your master. When Sui goes back, I'll let someone inform you." "Okay, thank you, Senior Impermanence." Shirsusu bowed slightly and walked back to the Blue Cloud Palace. "Let's go back to the sect." Impermanence Fairy waved her sleeves and stopped looking at the situation behind her. With such a ridiculous farce, 9 Stars Valley's reputation would be ruined. 9 Stars Valley, haha. The Boang sect, will remember this. Merciless West's eyes were filled with murderous intent, and an unparalleled force rose from her body. She directly rushed towards the Bawang sect outside the valley. Chaos region, Nameless Beach. Boom! On the shore near the reef, half a figure collapsed in the water. He was naked, and the ripples on his armor were shattered. He was covered in blood. It was Su-yi, who was struck by lightning from a crack. Su-yi, wake up. Ling Qianchue's voice was anxious, and she kept calling softly. "Where's this?" Su-yi's voice was very hoarse as he whispered. Su-yi's eyes were tightly shut, and his vision was very dark. The heavenly origin demon soul in his body was emitting a blazing light. His consciousness was still a little blurry, but he could feel that he was in a damp and cold environment. "I don't know. I was expelled with you. This should be near the chaos region. Are you okay?" Ling Qianxue asked softly. Su-yi used all his strength to turn over. Su-yi gradually climbed to the shore and sat up. He activated the Origin Supreme technique and looked inside himself. He said softly, "It's just a flesh wound. It's not a big deal." That lightning was transformed by the rules of space and directly suppressed my mind. It's very powerful. Fortunately, the heavenly origin demon soul is strong enough to let me recover for a while. Help me pay attention to the surroundings. Ling Qianxue agreed softly, and her heart calmed down a little. Then, the vitality around Su-yi's body surged. He focused his mind and closed his divine sense temporarily and slowly recovered on the spot. The waves crashed against the shore again and again. Seabirds hovered faintly in the sky. Su-yi recovered peacefully beside the reef. 3 men in pure gold robes slowly descended from the sky. A wave of Origin Emperor Realm aura rushed towards them along with the waves. The leading man in pure gold was at the 3rd level of the Origin Emperor Realm. He was about 37 or 38 years old. He looked at the surrounding environment and said with disdain, "This is the Chaos region? It is indeed a low-level place. I wonder what kind of deity Su-yi is. The 5th saint actually came here, specially. We are really giving him a lot of face." The other 2 beside him also softly agreed and said, "Senior Brother Chung is right. I wouldn't come to such a place even if you begged me. I wonder if the other 3 senior brothers are faster than us. This chaos region is incomparably huge. We should find the saint and return to the sect before they do." After speaking, the 3 of them walked towards the shore of the chaos region. The heavy footsteps made Su-yi's mind a little confused. "Senior brother, there is someone there?" A pure gold disciple pointed at Su-yi and said. Su-yi's body was covered in divine radiance. The demon god battle armor was glowing with a faint light. The cracks were closing up along with Su-yi's vitality recovery. The demonic but divine radiance lit up the area. Chapter 1473. Armor Treasure. The disciple, surnamed Chung, looked at the armor on Su-yi's body that was suffused with a faint divine light. He was instantly overjoyed, and his eyes were burning with fire. "I didn't expect that someone in this small chaos region would have such a treasure." The 2 disciples were rather shocked as well. They sensed that Su-yi was only at the 9th level of the Origin Void stage and said disdainfully, "Kid, take off your armor, and I'll leave your corpse intact." When the 3 of them arrived at the shore, Ling Qinshui had already sensed it and told Su Yi, who was focused on recovering, that there were origin monarchs coming. Su Yi was completely immersed in the recovery of his soul. He was constantly chanting the driving heaven chant. Mysterious runes were like divine halos that surrounded Su Yi's body. His almost naked upper body was suffused with a simple and bright luster. Similarly, Su Yi sensed that the disciple before him was only at the third level of the origin monarch stage and was too weak, so he didn't pay too much attention to it. He didn't expect that these people would actually want to snatch his treasure. He couldn't help but shake his head. Let's wait a while and see what they can do. Su Yi transmitted his voice to Ling Qinshui. Su Yi's super heaven-grade soul recovered extremely quickly. In just a few breaths of time, it had already recovered by half. The disciple surnamed Cheng carefully looked at Su Yi. How could a 9th-level origin void stage martial artist have such a thick and old cultivation aura? A cold light flashed in his eyes. This kid is a little strange. The two of you, go and get the armor he is wearing. A lowly person isn't worthy of such a treasure. Seeing that Su Yi didn't respond for a long time, the two disciples who wanted to flatter their senior brother looked at each other and were even more furious. As direct disciples of the sect, they had a respected status. How could they not reply to what they said? Instantly, a cold and arrogant feeling was born. Let me see what kind of background you have. If you're a mute, I'll tear your mouth apart. One of the disciples said fiercely. As soon as he finished his sentence, the two disciples in pure gold brocade robes released their first-level origin emperor realm Yuan Qi. They stepped out of the ground and used their hands as claws to grab Su Yi. From the center of his palm, an incomparably divine pressure was condensed, and a vigorous and sharp wind directly swept towards Su Yi's body. Seeing Su Yi meditating on the ground, the disciple, surnamed Cheng, revealed a cold and arrogant expression. Although the Chaos region was a low-level region, there were no rules to speak of. There were still many peerless experts here, and it was a place that many experts feared. As a direct disciple of the sect, he knew that Su Yi, who had made a name for himself in the Chaos region, was definitely not an ordinary person. However, he was certain that he would not be so unlucky as to meet Su Yi as soon as he arrived in the Chaos region. Therefore, killing a nameless pawn was nothing out of the ordinary for them. In the next second, he could predict Su Yi's miserable fate. Bang! Bang! Two crisp sounds of explosions could be heard as the two pure gold figures drew a long arc in the sky. When the Origin Emperor Realm's attack hit Su Yi's body, it actually bounced off. The two disciples were sent flying dozens of meters away like cannonballs. Su Yi remained as still as a mountain, breathing and meditating in the same spot as if nothing had happened. Only his hair stirred up a slight ripple, and the surrounding space rippled a little before disappearing. The two disciples who were sent flying crashed onto the beach and spurted out a mouthful of blood. A deep pit that was 3 meters wide and bottomless appeared abruptly. The two disciples held onto their heads and rolled on the ground as they vomited blood. Their hearts and souls felt extremely suppressed. Something is indeed wrong. The disciple surnamed Cheng raised his eyebrows. He condensed his Yuan Qi in his hand and shook his arm. Along with the afterimages in the air, he rapidly rushed towards Su Yi. The young man before him was too strange. He did not dare to hold back his cultivation of the third-level Origin Emperor Realm. He quickly struck out a palm print in the air. Boom! Another earth-shattering explosion resounded, without any hesitation, as if it had hit a mountain. Su Yi did not move an inch, but on the other side, the disciple surnamed Cheng was like a ragged sack. His body was blown back by the huge impact. With his cultivation of the third-level Origin Emperor Realm, he quickly adjusted his movement technique. After a dozen revolutions in the air, he finally neutralized the force. His legs were like iron castings that were deeply embedded in the diagram, reducing the force. PFFF. Both of his hands were trembling nonstop. His right hand was hanging down naturally, obviously dislocated. The disciple, surnamed Cheng, covered his chest with his left hand and spurted out a mouthful of blood. The three disciples were dumbfounded. The Sui in front of them was too strange. How could the origin void realm be so powerful? Oh, after a breath of time, Sui opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air from his throat. Radiance shot out from his eyes, and his body was overflowing with energy. In a blink of an eye, the surrounding sand and dust were blown into the air. He stood up slowly and stretched his body lazily. At a glance, he saw the three middle-aged men wailing in the sand pit. Sui walked over slowly like a killing god. Every step he took made the three disciples tremble with fear. Not bad to be in the Origin Emperor realm before the age of 40. Wu Jiyo and the others in their 30s are only in the Origin Void realm. The aura of these three disciples just now was somewhat familiar. Sui muttered in his heart. "You guys hit me?" Sui asked indifferently. When the three disciples saw Sui walking over, their faces were filled with fear. Sui's sword-like cold glare made them tremble uncontrollably. "That's right. Who are you?" Sui looked coldly at the attire of the three disciples and immediately quickened his pace. Like a ghost, he appeared in front of the three disciples. "Answer me first. Who are you guys?" Sui said in a low voice. A sense of maturity that didn't belong to his age was like a saint descending as he stared at the three disciples. Oomph. When it came to their sect, the three disciples seemed to have gained some confidence and mustered up their courage to speak. "Do you think a piece of trash like you deserves to know about my sect? I'm afraid you'll be scared out of your wits." Disciple Chung said arrogantly. "Disciples of the Sacred Mountain are really annoying no matter where they go." Sui said faintly. His eyes were filled with pity as he looked at the three disciples. "Who are you?" "Oomph. Since you know, why aren't you kneeling down and begging for mercy?" Disciple Chung looked at Sui with flickering eyes. He was somewhat uncertain. "It seems like I haven't gone to the Sacred Mountain for a long time. The Sacred Mountain has chased me all the way here. I said before, don't let me meet anyone from the Sacred Mountain." Boom! Yuan Qi suddenly appeared under Sui's feet. Fire attributed Yuan Qi suddenly revolved. The blazing aura caused the temperature of the beach to rise unceasingly. Soon, the three disciples were drenched in sweat. Their eyes were dull. The scene in front of them was very similar to Sui's appearance in the Sacred Mountain. You are Sui." The three disciples were stupefied. It was as if they had seen the Grim Reaper. After the sacred martial assembly, Sui's name had already spread throughout the sect. Chapter 1474. This caused all the personal disciples to feel indignant. Every single one of them had outstanding talent in various aspects within the sect. Their competitive nature caused them to belittle Sui in their hearts. They wanted nothing more than to kill him and make their names known to the world. King of Heaven's pride, Sui. Even the fifth saint child of the Xiehong Pavilion didn't hesitate to come out of seclusion to meet him. The disciple surnamed Chung was scared out of his wits. His lips trembled as he asked, "Didn't the fifth saint child come to find you? Why are you here?" "Oh." Sui immediately thought of the figure he met at the Spirit Treasure Pavilion. It seemed like his initial guess was correct. "Speak. Why did he come to find me?" "The fifth saint child is a saint child that just came out of seclusion. I beg you not to meet him, or else you will be in trouble." The disciple sneered. When the fifth saint child was mentioned, it was as if he didn't put Sui in his eyes. Boom! The great void deep sea in Sui's body had already recovered to its peak. Within his broad meridians, the first hidden latch was meditating. Sui's palms shook, and a force directly hit the Sacred Mountain disciple, surnamed Chung. Crack! The disciple's left arm became wobbly and was directly shattered by Sui. "Answer my questions. Otherwise, the next one to shatter will be your head." Sui's expression was calm, but his eyes were full of coldness. Sui had never been lenient towards the Sacred Mountain. It seemed like the fifth saint child came for Sui. He brushed past Sui and then let him go. This made Sui a bit confused. The people of the Holy Mountain were really persistent. Wang Chuanda, the Holy Fire Old Man, Ouyang Jinwei, and Nalan Ruyu, each of them had their eyes on the top of their heads. They were ruthless and extremely hateful people, not to mention that the Holy Mountain had also touched the Su family that he cared about the most. They were definitely his mortal enemies. In Su Yi's heart, the mention of the sacred mountain was like a volcano that could erupt at any time. Looking at the wailing disciples, Su Yi paused and asked again, "Why did the fifth saint child come to find me? I only know that as soon as the fifth saint came out of his seclusion, Elder Hiroshi told him about you. After that, he came looking for you. The disciples of the sacred mountain are all very strange. Although you are very powerful, there is no need for the fifth saint to come looking for you." Yes, he is right. So we also found it strange. The fifth saint child's position in the sacred mountain was much higher than Naran Ryu. Even if he was famous, with the saints' arrogance and disdain for the world, why would they come to the chaos realm? Then what are you here for? He shook his head and a cracking sound came from his neck. We are here to inform the fifth saint child to return to the sect. Why are you in such a hurry? Su Yi's interest was immediately piqued. Something big must have happened in the sacred mountain, and it might even be related to Lu Ruashi. We're just following orders. We really don't know, the three of them said in unison. Their eyes were filled with fear as their bodies trembled. The three of them were almost hugging each other. "Ha!" Su Yi raised his hand, and a powerful force suddenly poured into Disciple Cheng's body. He lost consciousness and fainted. When the other two disciples saw that Disciple Cheng was knocked unconscious, their foreheads were dripping with sweat. They had only heard of Su Yi's deeds, and now that they saw Su Yi, he was indeed as fierce as the rumors said. They immediately saw stars, and their faces turned pale. Su Yi's mouth curved into a faint smile. He bent down and said to the two disciples, "I will ask you one last time. What are you here for? If you lie, you will suffer the same fate as him." The two disciples of the sacred mountain fell into the sand pit. Their clothes were already soaked. Su Yi's devilish smile came into view. They were shocked and said softly, "We are really here to inform the fifth saint child to return to the sect." The elder did not tell us the details. They really don't know. Ling Qinxue saw that the disciples' bodies were weak and their faces were pale. They did not seem to be lying. When Su Yi heard that there was another group of people looking for the fifth saint, he asked about the cultivation level of the other group. They told Su Yi that they were also around the third level of the Origin Emperor realm. However, there were two Origin Ancestor realm experts beside the fifth saint. Moreover, their cultivation levels were above the fourth level of the Origin Ancestor realm. Su Yi gradually stopped smiling and straightened his body. His expression turned solemn as he said coldly, "All right, it seems like you did not lie to me. I will spare your lives for now." When the two disciples of the sacred mountain heard that Su Yi was going to let them go, they were overjoyed. However, before they could thank Su Yi, they saw that Su Yi's fist was wrapped in a white origin chi light. Suddenly, Su Yi's eyes were filled with red, killing intent. From the tip of his fist, a white light shot out like a waterfall, directly hitting the lower abdomens of the two disciples. Bang! Bang! Two dull thuds were heard as the two disciples of the sacred mountain held onto their abdomens and rolled on the ground. Su Yi had shattered the dantian of the disciples with a single punch. Every disciple of the sacred mountain was a 1 in a million talent. How would they have the opportunity to practice martial arts in the future? Su Yi, the sacred mountain will not let you go. The elders will definitely kill you. The two disciples of the sacred mountain rolled on the ground in pain and despair. Bang! Another explosion was heard. Su Yi's body was wrapped in red origin chi of the fire attribute. His eyes were filled with coldness as his palms were like blades. A faint red light flashed in his deep eyes. A ball of flowing fire hit the disciple with the surname Cheng. Sizzle. The incomparably hot temperature directly burned the disciple, surnamed Cheng. In the blink of an eye, a living person turned into ashes and scattered in the air. Su Yi's cruel methods made the two disciples who were screaming in pain shut their mouths immediately. The disciples who had fainted disappeared before their eyes, just like that. He didn't even blink his eyes. He was even more cruel than the legends. The two disciples immediately sucked in a cold breath and kept quiet out of fear. Yi withdrew his origin chi and said to the two disciples on the ground, "You can only blame yourself for being disciples of the sacred mountain." After saying that, he didn't even look at the disciples on the ground. He took out a set of clothes from the space bag and changed. When he turned around and was about to leave, another group of people approached Yi's side. Could it be the group of people from the sacred mountain? Ling Qinxue carefully identified with her spirit sense. Looking at the black shadows on the horizon that were gradually enlarging in his eyes, Yi's killing intent suddenly rose. He activated the Origin Supreme technique and stared at them with a serious face. Sect Master Su, a familiar voice, came from afar. Seeing Yi's figure, the black dots suddenly sped up. When they got closer, Yi also recognized the figure and couldn't help but be stunned. Elder Xia. The person who came was Elder Xia Wushu of the Ash Cloud Hall. Ever since the Bawang sect escorted him, he hadn't seen Elder Xia Wushu for a while. Chapter 1475. Sect Master Su, why are you here? Xia Wushu was very happy to see Yi. Xia Wushu was slightly surprised to see the Holy Mountain disciples on the ground in pain, but he could guess the relationship between them and asked Yi with concern. This was what Yi wanted to ask as well. This should be the border of the Chaos Zone. He had heard from Wei Hong that Elder Xia Wushu had left the Chaos Zone a few months ago and no one knew his whereabouts. Now that they had met here, he must have returned from somewhere else because of some important matter. Otherwise, he would not have missed the Golden Rock Secret Realm and the Thunder Sealing Valley ceremony. It's a long story. Let's talk about it when we have time. By the way, Elder Tang Wang was left here with me. This place is vast. Can Elder Xia help me find him? Oh, the old guy is here too? Hearing this, Xia Wushu's interest was piqued. He immediately ordered the experts behind him to search around the beach. Not long after, everyone gathered on the beach. It turned out that the Green Emperor, Tang Wang, and the others who were scattered around the beach had sensed Yi's aura and were rushing over. Xia Wushu looked at Tang Wang, Elder Meng Sun, the Bawang sect's Demon Emperor, Shui Zhong, and a few other new faces and was stunned. This old guy, what happened? Tang Wang, the Green Emperor, and the others had been expelled from the space crack and did not have time to repair themselves. They were in a sorry state, and their clothes were in tatters. They came directly to the beach where Yi was and met Xia Wushu's experts. Tang Wang didn't want to talk about everything that had happened in the 9 Stars Calamity Sea. Looking at Xia Wushu, Tang Wang's heart became even more dejected. He had nowhere to vent his depression. Seeing that Tang Wang didn't want to say more, Xia Wushu didn't continue asking. He said to Yi embarrassedly, "Sect Master Su, now that the old fellow and the Green Emperor have been found, why don't I escort you back to the sect first? It just so happens that I have something to tell you." When Yi heard this, he was instantly delighted. He had just heard that the 5th Holy Son had 2 Origin Ancestor Realm powerhouses by his side. Now that Xia Wushu was escorting them, their journey would be extremely safe. That would be great. It just so happens that Elder Xia is tired from the long journey. You can come to our Bawang sect to rest. I just don't know if it will delay Elder Xia's matter. Yi said softly. Xia Wushu waved his hands, his silver beard fluttering in the wind. He then turned to Yi and said, "Don't worry about it. This time, I came back to the Overlord sect to take a look. Along the way, sect leader Su can tell me about the recent happenings in the Chaos region." After speaking, he looked at Tang Wang and winked at Yi. Yi's starry eyes flashed as she solemnly nodded her head. After which, when she was about to leave with Xia Wushu and the others, she turned and saw that Elder Tang's eyes were filled with disappointment. After this calamity, Tang Wang had completely given up on the 9 Stars Valley. He already knew about Chun Yao's conspiracy and the dirty deeds of the 9 Stars Valley. The old ancestor had already perished. Chun Feng and Chun Yu, who had been kind to him, had destroyed his last hope. Tang Wang could finally cut off all ties with the Nine Stars Valley. However, once he left the Nine Stars Valley, Tang Wang's heart was in turmoil. Su Yi naturally understood Tang Wang's thoughts. He would head to the Bawang sect with the Green Emperor and the others, leaving Tang Wang alone. Although Tang Wang was open-minded, losing his sect would be a devastating blow to any martial artist. It would be like a ship sailing in the night without a beacon. Su Yi walked forward and said respectfully to Elder Tang, "Elder Tang, I have a presumptuous request." Tang Wang slowly raised his head. His eyes were dull, and there was a strange fluctuation in them. He said softly, "Sect Master Su, please speak your mind. The Nine Stars Valley is already a thing of the past. However, in the pursuit of martial arts, Elder Tang and I are the same. In the future, the Bawang sect will definitely have a place in the Chaos region and even the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea. Elder Tang, are you willing to help me fulfill my wish?" Su Yi's words were very tactful. As a Yuan sect expert, Tang Wang was already one of the top figures in the Tian barbarian continent. Even if he wanted to travel the world, no one would stop him. However, Su Yi wanted Elder Tang Wang to have a place to belong to so that he would no longer miss the Nine Stars Valley. After speaking, Su Yi bowed to Tang Wang solemnly and said in a deep voice, "Elder Tang, please join my sect." Elder Tang looked troubled. He had just left the Nine Stars sect, and now he wanted to join the Bawang sect. This made Tang Wang feel at a loss. Seeing that Elder Tang was silent for a long time, Xia Wushu laughed and said, "Old man, we haven't seen each other for a few months. Why are you so wishy-washy? In the pursuit of martial arts, it doesn't matter which sect you are in. Since the Nine Stars Valley isn't what you want, you should go to a new world and create a new atmosphere." Hearing Xia Wushu's words, Tang Wang seemed to have been enlightened, and a ray of light flashed in his eyes. Old Xia is right. Why can't I rebuild the Nine Stars Valley in my heart? Tang Wang was instantly overjoyed, and he gradually clenched his fists. Yes. Elder Tang, you are so powerful. You can definitely become famous in the continent with Master. Yiming also approached Tang Wang and tugged at the corner of his clothes. He was very obedient with a smile on his face. Haha, Sect Master Su, you have many experts under you. I also like Muyang. I am willing to join the Bawang sect. I will listen to your orders. That's great. With Elder Tang's help, the Bawang sect will be like a tiger that has grown wings. Su Yi rubbed his fists and was extremely excited. From now on, the Bawang sect would have another origin ancestor expert. Their authority in the Chaos region would increase by another level. On the other side, the Green Emperor, the Yin-Yang twins, and the others were also very happy. After so many twists and turns, every Demon Emperor had established a deep relationship with Su Yi and the Bawang sect. They were like birds of a feather, living and growing together. One day, the Bawang sect will be famous in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. It will become a peerless sect that is even more eye-catching than the sacred mountain. Su Yi's gaze was stern, and his boiling blood was like a volcano erupting. Then, Su Yi turned his head and looked at Shui Zhong and the others. He calmed his emotions and said, "I know that the Sky Desire clan doesn't submit easily. However, the Bawang sect has its own insistence. Look, are you willing to join?" Shui Zhong's white fur fluttered along with the sea breeze. His black nose fluttered, and his bulging muscles trembled. Zhuoro and Yingwu looked at Shui Zhong from the side, following Shui Zhong's advice. Bang! Shui Zhong thought for a while and got down on one knee. His huge body half-knelt on the ground, and his left fist tightly wrapped around his right fist. He turned his head to one side and said in a deep voice, "Su Yi, you are the one who brought us out of the Calamity Sea. You have changed our situation for hundreds of years as an Origin Void Realm expert. You are the human I admire the most. I am willing to follow you. I will become an expert in the world." Chapter 1476. Great! Shui Zhong, who was standing in front of Su Yi, was as tall as a small mountain. His heavy breathing sounded like a gust of wind blowing past. Su Yi patted Shui Zhong's shoulder heavily and laughed heartily. Great! From now on, you and I will treat each other with sincerity, just like the Green Emperor and the rest. Once you join the Bawang sect, you will be one of us. Greetings, sect leader. Zhuo and Yingwu knelt down together with Shui Zhong and said respectfully. The Green Emperor and the Yin Ming duo were also very happy. The three great demons had never been born before. They were pure and talented. Without the suppression of the power of the stars, with the help of their master, they would definitely be able to improve by leaps and bounds and become the right-hand men of the Bawang sect. Sect leader, these are all the resources of the middle three islands. I will hand them all over to you now. From now on, you will be a member of the Bawang sect and a member of the Bawang sect when you die. Shuizhong's angry eyes flashed with warmth. In the Calamity Sea, Su Yi had risked his lifetime and time again for them, turning the tide with his own strength. Shuizhong engraved this courage in his heart. Hence, by handing over all the resources of the Middle Three Islands, he was also expressing his determination to follow Su Yi to death. Su Yi was also very happy. His trip to the Calamity Sea was actually very fruitful. He casually checked and found that there were dozens of 9-turn dragon scale herbs. This time, he and Tianqing Jingpa had improved by leaps and bounds. They had taken all the resources of the Calamity Sea and also obtained 3 Demon Royal Realm experts with great potential and a top Origin Ancestor Realm expert. It was really a pleasant surprise. He had heard from Chunyao that the 9 reincarnation dragon scale grasses' medicinal properties were tender and could only be stored in a spirit stone box. However, in this world, there was no storage space that could compare to his own mysterious space. Thus, he had to hurry back to the Overlord sect. Thinking of Chunyao, Su Yi's lips gradually curled into a smile. At this time, Chunyao is probably going crazy. Thinking about how Chunyao efforts were all for naught, and he even lost so much money, he felt a burst of joy in his heart. He grinned and said, "Okay, take it. We'll talk about it when we get back to the sect." Xiao Wuxiu, who was standing at the side, slightly shook his head and said, with just a few words, so many experts are following him. I'm afraid that this kid won't be able to stay in the small chaos region in the future. This old man congratulates Elder Tang and also congratulates sect leader Su. Xiao Wuxiu said with a smile. In his heart, his admiration for Su Yi rose once again. All right, everyone agreed. In an instant, more than 10 long streams of light flew across the sky, sprinkling down several illusions in the sky. Meng Sun also returned first to inform the Green Flame sect, because the Green Flame sect was still in the 9 Stars Valley. Su Yi asked Meng Sun to inform Merciless West, Impermanence Fairy, and the others to return to the sect and wait. On the quiet beach, the sea breeze blew, leaving only 2 disciples of the Holy Mountain, who did not dare to breathe too loudly. They were in a daze where they stood, and it was only after Su Yi and the others left that they came back to their senses. Quick, inform the 5 holy sons. We can't spare Su Yi. I want Su Yi to suffer a fate worse than death. The Holy Mountain disciples looked at the illusions in the sky, and their eyes were filled with killing intent. The strong wind whistled, and Su Yi, who was flying at high speed, was very happy. Looking at the Bawang sect in front of him, a voice sounded in his mind. If you don't kill those 2 people, the Holy Mountain will know your whereabouts. Ling Chinshua said. Su Yi's eyes were sharp, and he looked coldly at the sea of trees, and said angrily, The Holy Mountain's 5 holy sons have already rushed to the Chaos region. If I don't let them go back to report, they will think that I'm hiding from them. The Holy Mountain has gone too far. They really think that the 4 seas are their heaven and earth? Once again, I will overturn the Holy Mountain. After saying that, Su Yi's killing intense soared, and his robe fluttered in the wind, making him look like a killing god. Holy Mountain! Thinking of the Holy Mountain, Su Yi's heart was filled with rage, and he couldn't help but speed up in the direction of the Bawang sect. 9 Stars Valley, Migres Valley. A streak of starlight shot into the sky, shattering all of the objects around it. A frail and gentle figure glared angrily in the direction of the Overlord sect. It was the 9 Stars Valley Master, Chun Yao. His long hair was like a waterfall, and his knuckles were creaking. His eyes were cold, and he gritted his teeth. Su-yi, I want you to break into pieces. This time, the 9 Stars Valley had suffered a huge loss. Not only was the star token used as bait given out, but the Sea of Calamity had collapsed, and all their resources were taken away. The 3 cornerstones of the Yuan sect were all dead. The 1,000 years of foundation of the 9 Stars Valley had been destroyed. The most hateful thing was that the spatial rules of the entire 9 Stars Valley had changed due to the collapse of the Sea of Calamity. The entire 9 Stars Valley had lost its energy source, and the enchantment gradually disappeared. All of this was because of Su-yi. Nangong Hang, you idiot. No matter how you planned, you still fell into Su-yi's trap. Chun Yao's face was extremely gloomy, and his eyes were as cold as a demon from hell. Dong! The 9 Stars guard outside the door gently knocked on the door and said in fear, Valley Master, the Elders' Council asked you to attend. There was a huge change in the Thunder Ceiling Valley. The Darking Gate and Green Flame Gate fought with Elder Nya. Elder Nya was seriously injured, and the 9 Stars Valley suffered a huge loss. Get lost! Chun Yao, who had always been gentle and elegant, shouted at the top of his lungs. His roar was like an energy wave, and it set off a whirlwind in the entire room. Bang! The guard outside the door seemed to have been hit hard, and he flew back 30 feet. He didn't even have time to wipe the blood from his mouth before he scrambled out of the courtyard. Chun Yao's eyes were gloomy, and he twisted his neck left and right. He straightened his clothes and said fiercely, The Elders' Council even dared to order me around. Nangong Heng, if it wasn't for the power behind you, I would have killed you long ago. Well, who asked you to die? You be my scapegoat. Su-yi, one day, I will make you pay me back 100 times. Chun Yao's whole body erupted with energy, and the door was directly opened. His gentle temperament suddenly became extremely fierce, and Chun Yao's sword-like energy directly cut the beams of the room into pieces. He walked out of the Valley Master's residence like a tornado. Boom! The magnificent Valley Master's room was instantly turned into a pile of dust. The broken walls were a ghastly sight. Not long after, Su-yi's group returned to the Bawang sect. After Nangong Ningyue's construction, the Bawang sect was even more magnificent. The arches were intertwined, and the houses were continuous, as if the heavens were crimson. Several mountain peaks were connected, and a simple aura was emitted. The imposing manner of the 4th largest sect in the Chaos region was awe-inspiring. In this small mountain range, it was like a fiery red pearl was dazzling. The stone statue of the Phoenix Divine Shadow stood in the square, and countless fiery red banners were hidden in the lush green mountain range. The golden tiles and red walls, white stone and jade railings, and a multicolored glaze under the illumination of the golden light appeared unique and mysterious. In the midst of the magnificent atmosphere, a proud sect's aura surged like waves. The faces of the Blue Cloud Hall's experts were incomparably dignified. Their leader, Xia Wushu, hadn't come to the Bawang sect for a while, and he didn't expect it to develop so quickly. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.